It was good timing, and I did message you after you whole shotted the main because I was like, that is impressive. There's not many privateers whole shot in the main event.
I was stoked with it, because especially for the Tank Masters bonus and everything like that. I was obviously bummed with how quickly I made a pretty fatal mistake to an extent. Is like Coop said, like the confidence, just being able to mentally deal with a situation like that.
On the inside, that's interesting. Get some work from him about that. How about Moranz getting the whole shot? Yeah, this is great.
How much did you win last year with the pulp thing?
It was right around 20 grand.
That's so good.
Moranz got him. Moranz got him at the finish line.
That's a $5,000 pass.
Wow.
And I'm looking at it and I'm like, bro, I caved my frame in on the bottom. It's still the same bike I'm racing today. And I saw that 4 p.m. on Friday before A1. Bro, I'm racing it. It's still the same bike I just whole shotted everybody on. It's just a caved in stock frame.
Before we get into this podcast with Kevin Moranz, I want to bring you a message from today's podcast sponsor, Athletic Greens. Athletic Greens is not only an all-in-one formula that helps me just cover all my nutritional bases, it's also the first healthy habit that I have that starts every single day. It sets the tone for a healthy day and just keeps my eyes laser focused on Glen Helen at the end of the year. Definitely noticed improvements to my skin and massive improvements to my overall gut health. AG1 is packed with 75 vitamins, minerals, and whole food sourced ingredients of the highest quality that are able to offer gut health support, mood support, can affect your energy each day, and contribute to overall healthier looking hair and skin. Go to athleticgreens.com/gypsytales if you want to get that free year supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs added to your first order. Thanks so much to the guys and girls at Athletic Greens. We're excited to have you on board. We'll just roll straight into it. Kevin Moranz, mate. Welcome to Gypsy Tales. We can just keep the same flow going. I was already enjoying the combo, but stoked to have you on the podcast, mate. I feel like you've definitely... You've been opening some eyes this year, and I've been following the program for a little bit, and then it's funny. So this is how real hustlers get shit done. I just reached out to Kevin and was like, hey man, anytime you want to come do the show, you just let me know. And he was like, hey, I'm there next Monday. Like, I'll fly in next Monday. Let's do it. And I'm like, all right, I guess we're doing it. So that's how you get it done. Hustle lifestyle, privateer lifestyle. Just gotta make it happen, you know.
Oh yeah, dude, it's nothing but that. But no, I appreciate you having me on. And yeah, I was happy that we were able to come out and make it happen. Obviously, it's been an exciting couple weekends. Pretty solid season thus far. So, well, we'll just keep building and keep growing.
Yeah, it was good timing, and I did message you after you whole shotted the main because I was like, that is impressive. There's not many privateers whole shot in the main event. It was funny. We even spoke about it with Coop on the podcast. I don't know if you heard it. But
yeah, I actually did, because I in track walk at Glendale, I stopped him going up the finish line. I was like, hey, thanks for the shout out in Gypsy Tales kind of deal. He laughed a little bit, so that was good.
That's funny, yeah, because like, I mean, the gist for those who haven't heard it of what we were saying was there's a big difference between like hoping you get a whole shot and like actually having the nuts to get one, because like at the end of the day, you're not running Chase Sexton, Eli Tomac speed. So it's like if you get that whole shot in that main event, like that's something that you're going to have to deal with.
Yeah, and that's like, so that's even what I was telling my team when I came back off, because obviously I was stoked with it, because especially for the Tank Masters bonus and everything like that. I was obviously bummed with how quickly I made a pretty fatal mistake to an extent. But just getting out front, and even in the first corner, because like I ride during the week, so like most of the times with Chase. So when he kind of snuck up the inside of me, I was like, I knew I'm man enough to say that I'm not those guys' speed yet, you know, hopefully sometime in the future. But so I was really just kind of going to just let him go. And then I saw that he rolled the double and I got the double, and I was just like, if it's there, I'm going to go for it. Yeah. And it ended up working out, and, led that lap, because that was the biggest thing for me with that situation, right? Is like Coop said, like the confidence, just being able to mentally deal with a situation like that. I started 4th in Detroit the weekend before, and honestly was like shitting my pants a little bit. Like I was like kind of freaking out, worried about, oh, I got Barsha, I got Rocks, I got all these dudes behind me. And I just kind of pumped up, flared out, and it didn't go super great. You know what I mean? Considering the start that I had. And obviously this one didn't pan out completely, but even to pass Chase back to an extent, go through the whoops, triple, boom, come over the finish line. Like I just took a deep breath over the finish line. I was just like, because I know those guys are going to get me around me at some point, but it's just trying to take your opportunity that you have like that and try to prove yourself as much as you can. That's the mental state that I was in over the finish line on that situation. Because I was like, you know, just do what you can with what you have instead of the weekend before where I was like freaking out about everybody behind me. Like it was nice being in front. I was like, I get to take my lines and let's just do this as long as we can kind of deal. Obviously it lasts like a quarter and a half after that, but you know, it was cool to get that, just the mental shift of that situation.
Yeah, because there's definitely something different about knowing that you can do that and then actually pulling the trigger and committing to it, because a whole shot essentially is just full commitment. You've got to go into the full turn, like you've got to go into the first turn fully committed and almost irrespective of what other people do. Like I remember in your vlog you were saying there was one dude next to you that kind of shut off on the inside, and it's like there's I guess it's like a hard thing to explain, but it's almost like you're just going for it sort of no matter what. There's like a point of no return, I guess, and it's like to have the confidence to hit that point of no return and kind of go in there. Definitely it takes a lot.
Yeah, no, and like that was the cool thing too, is like I was stoked with the heat race hole shot, because that's the one we were talking about where in the vlog I was like, you know, it was Craig actually who had the inside on me. So, you know, for people that don't really know, which I'm assuming a lot of people that listen to this podcast know, but even if you don't have the wheel on somebody, you technically still have the position if you're on the inside, because you can push them out a little bit. Like obviously, you know, you don't want to hit them or anything like that, but you can force the issue because you have the better inside position. So he kind of had that on me and he shut down a little bit, and I was like, sweet, dude, thanks for that. Because like if that was me on the inside, I probably would have pushed the issue a little bit more. But you know, it is what it is, and worked out in my favor. And that's the biggest thing for me now too, is now that I've had that mental shift, is once I put myself in another position like that, just ride it out as long as you can. Continue to prove yourself to the teams and everybody who's watching. And, you know, because I've obviously been, unfortunately, in a lot of LCQs, but I know how to handle the stress of this is my last chance. Okay, I'm out front. I got people hunting me down, everything like that. Obviously, it's not Roxon and Tomac that's behind me in the LCQ, but it's a similar level of stress that it helps me in those situations. Yeah,
definitely. And I think that, you know, it's so hard to race through the pack and gradually work your way from, you know, 15th to 14th to 13th to 12th, like to make that, you know, start from the bottom and work your way up in this sport is a really, really hard thing to do. And I mean, you know, for love him or hate him, but you look at what Vince Freese has been able to do. Like he was a guy that was a crazy roadblock for a lot of years, and he'd get these great starts, and it was like over time he just got more and more comfortable running the pace. Like the speed picked up. Like if you've got those kind of starts and you can get up front, and it's a lot easier. It's almost like reverse engineering a good result in a way, you know.
Yeah, it's a lot easier to go backwards than it is to go forwards to an extent. But yeah, that's just kind of the biggest thing for me is, you know, hopefully continuing to put myself in those positions so I can eventually get an opportunity, because like I'm sure we'll get into it throughout the pod, but like privateer life is tough, man. Like when it comes to the way I run my privateer program, because I kind of pride myself on probably being one of the there's a lot of hardworking privateers and whatnot, but I just have a lot going on within my program, a lot of different avenues and, you know, funnels more or less. So it's a lot of work considering, you know, I do all my own bike work during the week. I have to obviously train kind of by myself to an extent. I've got a trainer that gives me X, Y, and Z, what I'm supposed to do throughout the week. DW Formats, shout out to Drew. But yeah, man, then it comes to the travel, the hotels, like everything's pretty much on me figuring that out for the most part. And it's just busy, dude, with all the social media, XYZ, like there's helmet wraps, bike branding, Moranz Mafia, like there's so many things I have going on with the program that I do think I have a lot of potential if a legitimate team was able to step up and give me an opportunity.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm excited to talk to you about all that stuff, and I mean, I would consider myself a privateer podcast. so
Hey, that means we can respect the hustle, right?
yeah. No, I mean, I look at what you guys do, and yeah, I can relate, because it's the same sort of that. If there's a merch drop that comes from Gypsy Tales, that's me. If there's a podcast that that's me doing that. So I mean, I respect the hustle. That there's a few of you guys that are really killing it. I think you're right in saying that you're probably one of the harder working dudes that, the all round kind of package that you're putting together. So yeah, man, I definitely respect what you guys have got going on.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Like, I don't want to be the one to say that I'm like, that's for other people to obviously make their opinion based off my program, but like, I do take a lot of pride in it, because that's one thing I think that's really helped me to continue to grow, right? Because I even had this question asked to me not too long ago, is like, are you irritated that a team hasn't reached out to you, yada, yada, yada. And, I just really love what I do. I love the business side of it just as much as I do the racing side of it. So it makes it fun to me to get creative with these packages, and, the whole Patreon idea where obviously the monthly subscription to be a part of my program gets you XYZ benefits, giveaways, YCF pit bike, Oakley goggles, signed a Cheruby's front number plate. You get your first and last name on my race bike kind of deal. Like, getting creative with that to then be able to fully fund my own program, because I've been pretty fortunate enough to be able to do that since I was like 17 years old. So because I was in a position where I had to, or because my parents are like, dude, we can't afford this kind of deal. Like, we're helping our brother go to college, or my brother go to college a little bit. And they're like, if you really think you can do this, you want to do this, you got to get creative and go make it happen. And that's what I did. Yeah.
So maybe we should just start there. Well, actually, before we go there too, like, right now you are riding really good. Like, when you look at, well, when I personally look at you ride, I definitely see a dude, like a solid guy on the motorcycle that does look like he belongs there. Like, there's privateer guys that don't look like that. There's a lot of super fast privateers, but yeah, I mean, I definitely don't think it's like out of the question at some point, if you keep progressing, that you can kind of be up in that conversation, and maybe too, like, in the next few years, with the way that you're putting together the program that you are, the way that you're riding. I mean, and there's a few guys where it's like maybe the whole definition of a privateer like sort of evolves a bit, and it's quite a profitable thing to be a privateer, and teams like a factory team isn't the be all and end all, if that makes sense. So yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see where a guy like you that really has some great bike skills, like rides the bike extremely well, puts in the work, and maybe the factory thing doesn't happen, but maybe there's like this intermediary step in the sport that we sort of haven't really seen before.
Yeah, like, I think there's a couple of us that are kind of on that privateer program, the grind, making it work, getting different sponsors and stuff like that. And yeah, that's kind of the position I've been in, is I've had, a couple, I don't really know how to explain it to, I guess, the viewer, besides like dumbing it down in the sense that the way I look at it is you have privateer, you have B-level ride, and you have factory A-level ride, right? So I've had select B-level rides, so like supported teams, not factory, but like teams, reach out, and it's been of interest to me. Thankfully, I'm part of the Next Level Racing team, which is like a transport team for privateers. Chris, which is the owner, takes me to the line. So I get my transportation. I have somebody to help me at the races kind of deal. I do all my own bike work on Friday, get everything ready to go, but then he just helps me and takes me to the line and kind of takes care of putting fuel on the bike and stuff like that on race day. To sacrifice all the creativity that I have when it comes to, not all, some teams would be kind of interested in helping me, keeping it going and whatnot, but the helmet wraps, I sell obviously positions and spots on my bike for logo placement, the Moranz Mafia, so, names on the bike, XYZ, like certain places that I have to put things. Plus, I don't have somebody on top of me telling me what I have to do and what parts I have to run if I don't like them. Yeah. That's why I've really enjoyed building my own program and just having the freedom and having the fun of the fan interaction, the vlog, and everything like that.
Yeah, and that's I guess that's what I mean with that whole deal, is that, you know, maybe the teams isn't the best option to a sense, you know, like I'm sure, yeah, if HRC comes and you can't run a helmet wrap and people can't sign your bike, then it's like, okay, fuck it, well, I think I'll ride for HRC.
Yeah.
But I mean, you know, like there's even guys at the top level of the sport that have dipped out and done their own thing for the reasons that you just kind of spoke of, you know. So it's like, if there is a way to make racing profitable and have the fun that you have and have the freedom that you've got, yeah, maybe we enter a bit of a new sort of era in the sport where, like, there's good money in being a privateer dude. Like, I think about, like, Jeff Walker too, you know. He's a dude that obviously doesn't do Supercross, but man, what a solid program that he has. Like, he does the nationals, which is what he wants to do. He's got an amazing YouTube channel. He's got a huge fan base. Like, his stuff looks awesome. He adds this totally different kind of element to anyone else. Like, he's unique in the sport. And then I think Logan Carniow does a really cool job. You do a really good job, and it's like it's a cool lifestyle. I mean, if you can get the business side of it kind of dialed in, and I think that we're entering this stage now with the internet where, like, you can really leverage a lot of the things that you've got going on to this larger audience, you know. Like, it's not just limited to the people that come to the stadiums anymore. It's not just limited to TV time, because I guess that's the old model, right? Is it's like, all right, you need a guy that's going to win for the people that are in the stadium, and then that's the guy that's going to be shown on TV, and then that's the be all and end all. That was the only value add that a Supercross racer or a motocross racer had, but it's just sort of not the case now.
Yeah, like that's the whole YouTube thing, because obviously last year I started, or about a year and a half ago, we started the vlog situation. There was obviously like Adam Uncut. This was before like Barsha did the Bam Bam TV thing, I think. So there's only like a few of them, right? So then when we got in the game, we started to have a little bit of success. And like this year, dude, like over half the guys have something out there, right? So like it is pretty cool to see the differences between what they used to do in the past. Like you just said, like that, like Ricky Carmichael and those kinds of guys, like that was their staple of where they're going to make their marketing dollars, just putting it on the podium and getting that interview. Yeah. It's a little bit different now where like you have the Craig family vlog, you have my vlog, you have, you know, Bam Bam TV and all that stuff that people can do via social media that get to a lot more eyes than what they had in the past.
Yeah, no, definitely, man. So where did it all, I guess, start for you, and what's your era that you're in? So like, who did you grow up racing that's factory now?
So I'm obviously from Kansas, Topeka, Kansas. So I grew up pretty close to Benny Bloss, because he's from Missouri, and Austin Faulkner, who's from Missouri. Obviously, Benny, he's like three or 4 years older than me, and so I was always racing like the class under Faulkner. Yeah. Like I only raced him one time in Super Mini, I believe, at Loretta's. Every other time, he would be one class above me. So like I was racing like Sean Cantrell. I remember racing Enzo Lopes. Man, there's Mitchell Falk. There's so many guys. Like I could just look at my, the Loretta Lynn's vault or whatever. But those are the few that come up to me right off the rip. So like Sexton and Faulkner were just like a step above me, like a year above me kind of deal. So that's kind of where I started. Just did a lot of amateur stuff because I didn't really start. So like a little background on myself, right? Yeah. So I'm kind of not I don't know how to say, I won't say naive, but like I don't know our sport as well as a lot of other racers, because I went through the public high school route. I didn't do the whole homeschool route like Austin and those other guys did. So so like love my mom, my dad, my brother to death. Absolutely would not change anything, especially about my past now that it kind of turned me into who I am. But mom and dad both had regular jobs to an extent. Nobody owned a business. Nobody had a lot of freedom kind of deal. We were living pretty much paycheck to paycheck throughout my childhood. So to try to have Colton, my brother, who's 15 months older than me, and me racing and going to school, our primary focus was school. So then all we did was Loretta Lynn's every year. So we didn't do, Mammoth. I've never even been to Mini O's. I've never done any of these other nationals. Like, we went through school, wrestled and whatnot through high school or through middle school, played basketball, played football. And then in high school, I just primarily played football all 4 years. So I did that, and then did like arena cross in the off season. So our focus was Loretta Lynn's only, football, school, until I turned 17 when I graduated. And that was right when, I was like, I want to go graduate. I graduate semester, so then I could actually take the racing thing serious. And yeah, that's when my parents kind of sat me down. I was like, yo, like, we love you. You're doing good. You've had 5 top 10s at Loretta's kind of deal out of the 7 years. Nothing super crazy, all from like 8th to 10th, 7th to 10th. So no like podiums or anything like that. So I was always behind that factory-ish group of guys and continuously getting looked over, no support, anything like that. So it required me to get super creative and go business to business pretty much in my hometown to try to get, sponsorship dollars just to go to Loretta's. And then that's when they, got out of high school. They sat me down like, hey, you've kind of already started your little own program. If you really want to take this serious, it's kind of have to be on you. And I was super cool with that. Like, I was stoked. I was like, this is going to be a journey kind of deal. So, I just redefined and learned year after year on how to give value to sponsors instead of just going to ask somebody for money. Like, that's the biggest thing with sponsorship, is it's got to be a two-way road. Yeah. And a lot of kids in our industry don't really understand that, which is wild. Like, love our industry to death, but
Crazy,
it makes my job really makes my job really easy because a lot of kids don't go about it that way. So yeah, just showing value, finding creative packages, creating the vlog, and just building pretty much. So it's been pretty cool.
So how old are you now?
23.
Yeah, dude. So you're actually killing. Like, you're in a good spot, I reckon. Like,
yeah, I appreciate that.
It's yeah. I mean, let's just with what you've done already in the sport and to get to where you are in terms of like getting the sponsors that you've got, the YouTube stuff, the social media stuff. Like, you're running a pretty detailed little business at a super young age. And dude, let's say you just stop racing tomorrow, like, a team should hire you. Like, there's so many teams that struggle to make money and struggle to get sponsors, and you're like funding yourself to go racing 450 Supercross at 23. Like, it's you're in a really good spot. That's actually super cool to know.
No, thank you. Yeah, I've actually even had, that's why. So I additionally, which I guess I didn't touch on this, so I graduated high school 17 at semester to go start racing, and then I went and I got my associate's degree just online. So I did online college for 2 years, graduated with that, and then since then I've obviously been mainly focused on Supercross or racing in general. But yeah, like, I've had several of the sponsors that I've had in the past be like, yo, like, as soon as you're done racing, just let us know, kind of deal. And I was like, we'll get there someday, but we're not there yet, kind of deal.
Super cool, man. Yeah, I think that's it's funny, like, when I sort of did not the same thing. Like, my whole deal, like, I knew I wasn't going to be good at racing. Like, I just wasn't. Like, I'm just like a average rider, but I loved it, and I never wanted to not be around like racing or riding or just like the industry. My whole life, like, I looked at the way that my dad worked, and he just hated his job so much, and it was like pretty much traumatic for me as a kid to kind of like watch my dad just fucking hate his job. So I was like, all right, I'm just never going to do that. I don't care if I don't have much money. I don't care what happens financially, as long as I just don't hate my fucking job. And so I was like, well, the way to just not hate my job is to always be around motorcycles, because I love that shit. And yeah, I just kind of, it was funny, like, a lot of people would be like, oh, you need to do this, you need to do that, maybe you should get a job, maybe you should do this. And I just kept going from like one thing to it. It was sort of just like this constant like evolution of starting new businesses, and this like, I actually like doing this a little bit more than this, and then I got into the videography, and then that was my thing that I was actually good at, and then that got me to the US, and then I started the podcast, and there's like a lot of videography that is in that, and all the documentaries that I did with Red Bull and shit. Like, I was asking questions. So it's like the way you can build such a cool career, and especially when you're young. Like, I did that from when I was, like you said, 17 all through my 20s. And then it's like, I think I started the podcast when I was like 29 or 28. And, you know, it's like you learn so much through those years of just like kind of trying to figure it out, trying to get creative. And I mean, it's worth, I think, more than any degree when you've got like that real world experience. And yeah, like you said, to already have people be like, oh man, we'll give you a job as soon as you're done. Like, there's a lot of value in what you're doing.
Yeah, thank you, for real. And like, same thing for you. Like, obviously I see the grind with the podcast and everything, and like, dude, the last year and a half you guys have been just blowing up, which has been super cool to watch. And as far as like what you're saying, the whole, you know, just grind it out, do kind of what you want to do, have fun with it, and be like, I guess, more or less, quote unquote, an entrepreneur to an extent. So that's kind of what I got my associates, because it's just like, I think it's associates in science or something like that. You can't get like a degree in something specific when it's an associate degree, but I took all business classes to get it. Yeah. And even since a little kid, right? Like, I've never had like a real like normal job. Like my buddies and whatnot would work at the pool, the local pool, you know, McDonald's, stuff like that. Like, I mowed lawns. So like, I would travel in my little pickup or whatever and go mow lawns for cash, working for myself kind of deal. Because I mean, it's kind of a creative way, little thing to think about it. But like, I could go, which I loved in high school or whatever. Like, obviously I'm real world now. I got bills to pay and stuff like that, and a lot of expenses with racing. But it was cool as a kid, not having any bills at home. I could go just mow a lawn for an hour and make $50. And my boys are at the pool baking in the sun, or like working at McDonald's all day to make $50. And I'm like, this is like, I really enjoy working for myself, or at least having the freedom like I do within my program. Like, I can make packages, and just as long as I provide the value to the sponsor, it's more consistent for me, and it's easier for me to go about life.
Yeah, nah, dude, that's funny. Like, I did car washing and I did lawns, and I used to go, the first thing I did through, because my dad had a deal with me when I was a kid, and I fucking love him for it. It basically, like, we didn't have a lot, like, we didn't have new bikes, we didn't have any of that sort of shit. And Dad basically said, I'll go 50-50 with you in whatever that you bring. Like, if you want a new bike and it's $4,000, then you need to bring me $2,000. So yeah, I'd do, the first thing I'd do was the car washing, because it was kind of like the easiest. I could just get on my bike with a bucket, sponge, and then I'd like ride my push bike around town, just door knock, hey, I'm like gonna do this car wash package for you, blah blah blah. I can't remember how much money it was. And then as soon as I went down and up the street, like all around the block on the bike with the car wash, did all the cars, I'd circle back to the house, and then I'd be like, all right, Dad, I need to pack up the trailer. So we'd pack up the mower and the weed whacker in the thing, and I'd make Dad like drive me around the block. And like, the same people, if someone said no to a car wash, I'd sell them a lawnmower. And yeah, that's literally how I paid for racing as a teenager. And like,
oh my goodness,
I think that there's a certain like entrepreneurial spirit that like some people have, you know, like, and it's completely, I think sometimes, especially in 2023, it's so overly sexualized in a sense. Like, be an entrepreneur, especially in Dubai, dude, like, it's fucking out of control. Like, everyone you see, that's kind of the deal. But I mean, there is no problem in being getting a regular job and having a career and get like, I think that's probably the whole like entrepreneur thing is probably swayed so much in that direction, where it's almost like people talk down on people that have a regular job. There ain't nothing wrong with having a regular job, but there's just something, there's like some spirit I think that some people have, where it's like, you're not going to be anything but a person that works for yourself and like has your own hustle. And there's like a fine line, dude, between like someone that has their own gig and like people that are in jail, you know, like that same like hustle spirit. Like, it's a blessing and a curse.
Yeah, definitely. It's like that's two parts that I think of. So you're gonna love how I used to pay for my racing as an amateur, I'll tell you that. But like, that's one thing I kind of go back with my brother. My brother graduated from college, is a mechanical engineer for I'm blanking on it right now. Something tech or whatever, but he's like building airplanes more or less, or manufacturing the parts that are 3D printed to go into airplanes. So, but that's what I tell him. I was like, yeah, like, dude, I work 24/7 pretty much. Like, it's always a constant grind. I was like, I respect the fact that you make a salary and that salary is what you make. But at 4 o'clock, you get to clock out, turn your brain off, and you get to go do whatever you want to do with your buddies, with your girlfriend, or anything like that. I was like, I sometimes wish I had that, where I could just shut my brain off to not think about what I need to be doing next and this and this and this. So yeah, this is definitely, there's nothing wrong to have an actual career or a normal job per se. But yeah, there's pros and cons to both sides of it.
Yeah, dude, I completely agree. Like I pretty much have never really had a legit job. Like I probably had a few years where I worked for a Honda dealership when I was like first out of school. I worked for like a Kawasaki dealership, and then it was a Honda dealership. And then I started working for a magazine in Australia, like a dirt bike magazine. And that was like pretty much it. But the whole time that I was doing that, I was still like, my goal, like I only did that so I could start my business, if that makes sense. So it wasn't like I've never in my life experienced the just, I'm comfortable in this job, this is what I want to do, I'm getting a good paycheck, and then I get to just go home and enjoy it. Like, it's just not, that's never been something like in my existence, you know. But I'm like working towards that with the podcast. Like that would be my main goal in my life, is at some point I just do 4 podcasts a week and I don't have to think about nothing else. But I just,
that would be epic.
I don't know what the fuck it takes to do that.
Hey, we're working for it, you know what I mean? But so that's okay. That reminds me. So like how you said you were grinding, that's hilarious how you'd go to car washes, and if they said no, you'd sell them on getting their lawn mowed.
Yeah.
I love it. Absolutely respect that. So we'd go to these amateur nationals, right? So the only ones we'd ever really go to are like the area qualifiers, the regionals, and Loretta's, which is obviously the cream of the crop.
Yeah.
And then we would go to Freestone every now and again. But as a kid, like this started when I was really young, more or less, right? So I don't know why this just shot me back. I would even like take going into the gas station where you have like all your chips and stuff right in front of where you pay, and there's like a gap under it. Everybody always dropped their change in there. So as a kid, I would go grab a straw and be like fishing change out to get like make my dollars or whatever to get whatever I wanted. So then that transformed into when we go to these races, dude, when you go to an area qualifier, regional, or Loretta's, every single person on that property is getting a new tire put on their bike. Well, there's a lot of these kids that I won't say are more fortunate, but so let's just say they're more fortunate. Their parents aren't necessarily worried. They have their own businesses. They have a big toter home, so they don't need their pretty much brand new tires that they're taking off to put brand new ones on. So they leave their brand new tires right there with the tire companies. So when I was little, I would literally, this is how I paid for a lot of my racing throughout my amateur career, is I would make like a deal, or I'd go up to like Dunlop at Loretta's, or I'd go up to, you know, I was mainly on that or Pirelli throughout my career as an amateur, and I would go up and like make deals with them, whether I give them X amount per used tire, or I would just ask them like, hey, like, are you guys trying to take these home? Or are these just free for people to take or whatever? And I was literally, I remember one time where at Freestone, I walked back into like their back 40, which I don't even think you're able to get to go dumpster diving, to literally picking tires and other stuff I could take back home to sell. And that's, dude, like, cause I'd take them home, sell them for 20, 25, 30 bucks a pop. Dude, that's, you get 100 to 500 to $1,000 real quick out of that. So it's just finding value in things that, you know, people take for granted.
Yeah, and it's just I think it's just like a mindset too, you know, like some people, it's just I guess it's like a way of thinking. And it's funny, like I'll sit at my desk even when there's not much like I'm doing, in a sense, like you're kind of just cruising in a, like, I don't know, like it's, your gears are turning, you're not really doing much. And then there's times where I'm like, should I just fucking get up and do something else? Like I'm kind of, nothing's really happening. But the other night was like a perfect example of it. I was sitting down, and my chick's on the couch, and she's kind of doing her thing, and I'm just like, I'm sort of at that point of like, all right, I'm just gonna get up for the day. It's probably like 8:30 at night, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna be done for the day. And then I was like, I don't have Instagram on my phone, so I've only got it on the desktop. So then I was like, all right, I'll check some messages and then I'll dip. So I go over to Instagram, then I see like a video post, like a mountain bike thing, and I was like, oh, I'll watch that. And then I was like, there's these guys, Sleeper Studios. Anyway, so I'm like, all right, these guys make dope shit. So I clicked into their video, started watching the YouTube, and I was just zoned out watching it. And then I was like, fuck, I'm going to be in Barcelona in 2 weeks. Greg Minar lives in Andorra. So I'm going to reach out and see if like he wants to do the podcast while I'm there. And it's like, it's hard to explain, but it's like, you're always on even when you're off, in a sense, or you're always just waiting for the next bit of inspiration to kind of hit you. And I think that it's just, there's just something with like a certain personality type or a certain like way of thinking that lends itself to this sort of lifestyle, you know?
Yeah, that's like, so when I try to shut off, like you said, like that, it's really tough for someone like me to do, especially in the heat of Supercross season. But the biggest thing that even when I try to shut my brain off is that it's so hard for people to understand, because I have, obviously get a lot of DMs, a lot of messages, and, some people get irritated when I don't get back to them, which I understand. That's why I always say, like, yo, if you need something or you want something, like, I don't have a problem if you, like, double text me kind of thing. Like, I get so many people pulling me in so many different directions that, like, things get lost, things just get forgotten about, which sucks. But I lost where I was going with that. But it is a grind, you know what I mean? So it's you got to stay on top of it. You have to be respectful. And, yeah, man, it's a constant grind.
So I guess, like, where did oh, no, go. You got it?
Yeah, I was going to say, I was like, finally hit me. So what I was going to say is, even when I try to shut off, I can't, because I'm constantly thinking, since I have my own program, I have pretty much freedom to do not anything and everything with my bike, but there's always that thing of like, what else can I use to help my program or to further myself in life, that I could contact a company, get the right contact information, build some kind of package that shows value for them and for me, just to put a logo on my bike. You know what I mean? Like, that is an endless process. There's endless amount of businesses you could reach out to try to work a deal. So, like, it's so hard to shut off knowing, like, yo, I could put this email together and get some new gym equipment at my house kind of deal.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah.
So, like, that's one thing I do with my program is, like, in the past, like this past year, I worked a deal for a skid loader. Then I just worked a deal to get the skid loader wrapped. And then I just worked a deal with CMP Attachments to get Dirtworks old Hydro Bucket that they use for the tracks and everything like that, so then I can use it at my house. Obviously, putting the money that I made from the Pulp MX race last year into building a Supercross track at my house, because there's nothing at all close to Supercross. All these different things I'm trying to position myself so when I'm done racing, these are all assets of mine, more or less, that I can use in the future. So like cabinets, toolboxes, skid loader, all these different things that I could grab a truck and trailer, go use my skid loader, and boom, I have my own business right there for the rest of the time kind of deal. So it's just, I don't know. I like to, it's like you said, it's so hard to just shut it off. You know what I mean?
Man, it's just super cool too. And like, I think at 23, dude, it's just so, like, you're young to be on this wave, like, and yeah, it's funny. Like, even, you think about all the, dude, I saw a guy the other day, so I was riding at the track in Dubai, and this is what's crazy when you realize how much money is actually in the fucking world. Like, I was out on the track, and there was this dude, they rent bikes here, and so this guy is just out on the track, kind of like, not gooning around, but like, he's not a racer, he's just an average guy that's come out and rented a bike on like the gnarliest fucking sand track you've ever seen in your life. And then I'm like, I pull up next to him, he stopped on one of the dunes, and I'm like, you all good? He's like, yeah, I'm just tired, man. And I was like, all right, sweet. And I rode off. And this whole time so I pull up at the track, and there's this green, I don't know if you saw on my story, but there was like, I was standing in front of like this green Mercedes. And there was like this green AMG GT carbon wing on the thing's like $400,000-$500,000 car. And it was that dude's car, and like I had no idea, and like I just I'm like riding off for like my last moto, and there's just this young dude that's just like walking, like he's your age, maybe like a little bit older, and he's just figured out some way to make that much money, you know.
Oh
like,
my gosh.
There's a crazy high ceiling out there for people that like you said, really want to be creative and think about ways to, I mean, dude, you could, in the off season, like when there's no Supercross, you can start that skid loader business in May, you know? So it's like, yeah, it's really, really cool to hear the way that you think about, you know, racing and the kind of program that you can put together, because I think so many people put everything on that, getting the factory ride and getting on the podium, and it's the be all and end all. And even from a sponsorship perspective, like you've got that tool company that you work with, and you know, everyone's like, well, I want Red Bull, or I want more. And it's like, hey man, there's like a million tool companies out there that it might not be the sexy Monster logo that is, you know, going to get you the fucking Monster chicks at the after party. But it's like that there's some legitimate businesses out there that you can represent, and people can, you know, like you can make good money out of, you know, representing and adding value to just like normal companies. And there's a lot of them in America.
Yeah, and that's like one of the biggest things that people have told me about my program is I have certain riders and other people come to me like, how do you like get all these outside companies that come in to sponsor you? Because that's one thing I've also been told by people in the industry. You can't like, go outside of the industry because all of us are getting hit up by every motocross racer ever kind of deal. So like I've been pretty fortunate. Obviously Tank Masters jump on board pretty big. The Champion Tool Storage, which is something a little bit different too. GRE, which is an air conditioning company, a worldwide air conditioning company, jumped on board as well.
Yeah, wait,
Koi
so
CBD.
just like take some time.
Yeah, it's like,
take some time and list them out. Tell me what the companies are, what they do. Like give them like a proper plug. Like explain those companies, because I think it's really cool to hear from you, you know, like what you've been able to make happen.
Yeah, so I'll give the biggest plug to Tank Masters because that's what everybody's been talking about, the bonus situation and whatnot. They're a really great family out of New York. They deal with removing, replacing, and the environmental side of oil tanks for like energy and whatnot in homes.
Yeah.
So replacing oil tanks, if something cracks and then obviously the oil leaks into the ground, the environmental side of things. So they are an awesome family out there. They don't really stress too much about what they're getting out of, you know, sponsoring me. They just love it. They're a family an entire company that just loves what I have going on, the program. They saw it through the vlogs, and then they jumped on board kind of deal.
That's so sick.
Yeah. So that was really cool. Obviously, Redline Oil is one of the bigger ones too. That's an oil company within the industry. They jumped on board last year, built a program, and had kind of a separate thing from my team with them at some of the races. And then this year was able to incorporate them within our next level racing team, which is our transportation team, and kind of get all the other privateers hooked up with Redline Oil too. So like that was a really cool kind of combination. GRE, Comfort, which is a air conditioning company. That's probably the next biggest one. They've been on board for the last 3 or 4 years. Shout out to my man, Sean Yoho, who's a local guy by me, who's kind of like a dealer for them, who made the contacts and the connections to make that happen. And it was actually funny. Like I was in the hotel this weekend for Phoenix, and the air conditioning unit in my hotel was GRE. So I was like, dude, that's sweet. So that one was really cool. The Champion Tool Storage jumped on big this year too. Barry Material Handling, which is actually my dad's company. So my dad is a forklift technician at Barry Material, and so the CEO boss of that had seen everything that I had going on and like saw the jump from even last year to this, or from let's say 2020 to 2021, or no, 2021 to 2022. They're like, oh, like what do we need to do to get even further into 2023 kind of deal? I was like, I sat him down. I was like, dude, the biggest thing is I'm going to stay on the old model just because the new model's too hard to get my hands on right now. And I don't know what parts are going to be available for them.
And the old bike feels better to me.
Yeah, I mean, I've never even ridden the new bike.
Oh,
that's
really?
the thing. And that's what I mean, like, yo, you know, Roger, boys, hook it up. Your boys pulling starts on your guys' bikes. Like, just put me on a stock 23. You know what I mean? Help the boy out. But
the old bike's pretty sick. The old bike's good still.
Yeah. So, and that's why I stayed on it, is because I had all the parts for it, right?
Yeah,
I have a little parts collection, you know, Mika Metals, Flow Motorsports, there's, you know, Race Tech Titanium, there's a bunch of different stuff that's obviously for them. But the biggest thing was suspension had changed, right? So I think the forks overlay, but the shocks didn't. And I always ran the stock shock. I ran the stock shock for the last 3 years, all the way through Arena Cross, through the last 3 years of Supercross. And I've always wanted to try the race or the A-kit shock. I just never had the opportunity, never had the funds, never had anything like that. So that was the one thing that I talked to Barry Material about.
Huge difference.
It's like, this is what I need. Yeah, I was like, this is what I need. I want to get X amount of A-kit shocks because I need to have one on the practice bike, race bike, and then one to like kind of fluctuate in through there and rotate. And so they jumped on board to help me get that funding. And it's been a game changer for me this year. I really think so. So it was moving from the stock shock to an A-kit shock. The biggest thing is just the way it handles in the whoops, right? So I had a lot of teeter-totter sensation, which I have a long way to go. But little backstory on this is when I was going into testing that for the first time, I had the stuff that I had from Supercross last year. So my personal best was P15 at the very last round in Salt Lake City. So I took that suspension, had it reserviced, exact same settings, put it on the shelf, went through outdoors. After outdoors, come to test for Supercross, I knew I wanted to do this whole shock situation. So I had that fresh set of suspension, put it on the bike, got used to Supercross again, and was testing with that, and had the A-kit shock right there too. Went through the whoops at my house, which I had Dirtworks come out. That's the whole situation for the Pulp MX race. Ended up doing good in that, put that money directly back into the program for a track at my house because I'm in Kansas. Closest track to me is Raynard's, which is in Oklahoma. 4.5 hour drive there. Yeah, 4.5 hour drive one way. Like I can't go there for a day and come back. Like then I have to go there for a week. Then I'm couch surfing or finding somewhere to stay, or I'm in California or Florida couch surfing as well. I was like, we have a little track in our house, and I was like, we did a whole 2-part thing. It's actually kind of cool if people want to check it on YouTube. Just Kevin Moranz. But we had track build 1, where right after Supercross, I rented equipment. Everybody came to my house and had the Blaufus family, which is a family back in Kansas, kind of talked me into just getting the process started. Had a couple other people jump on board, and we flattened everything that we had. So we took down a X amount of trees and pushed a bunch of dirt, just made it flat. So then part 2 was after outdoors. I hired Dirtworks to come out and rented all the equipment for them to come out and build with. And then boom, it was a whole construction video of them building the track at my house, which is pretty sweet. So, but anyway, went through the whoops, stock suspension, came off, changed it, literally went straight to the whoops, went 1 lap through the whoops, stomped on my brakes, shut the bike off, and screamed out, "What the F?"
Yeah.
I was like, it's that big of a difference from me going from a stock shock to an A-kit shock production, what I can buy. What is the difference to the factory suspension that I can't even get my hands on? You know what I mean? Like, that's the situation that I'm in, which obviously I'm having so much fun in my program that I'm not stressing the factory ride. Like, I'm not pissed off at the world. I'm not pissed off at the industry. I believe I have a lot of potential, and I'm gradually showing that. I would have to say probably haven't shown enough that, you know, Red Bull KTM is coming to sign me. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
But I know that I have a lot more potential in me just from a change like that, the change that you've seen from me this year, the mental state that I can have on the starts, in racing, and everything in general, not necessarily, you know, working to not be scared of the dudes that I'm racing with. And that's clear for me this year, which is super good. So yeah, I don't know. Very excited. Love what I have going. Think I have a lot of potential, and, you know, we'll just kind of keep rolling with it.
Man, it's cool that you had that direct experience with changing to an A-kit shock. Like, people just, they don't, like, even, it's funny. So I was at the track the other day, and so I just bought a gas 450 here. I got so lucky. I bought this thing secondhand, and it had cone valves, forks, and the track's rear shock. So, like, I just had this thing. And shout out to my boy Mark Johnson. He's at AEO. He used to work for factory KTM when Dunge was there, and like when I was kind of around that whole KTM world. And he sent me like setting front and rear. It's like incredible. And so I was riding with this guy Ollie, who's like a local dude out here, and we were talking about like who should get factory suspension or like a kit, and I'm like, dude, honestly, the slower you are, like the shittier you are at riding, the more you need factory suspension. Like the dudes that are like really really good, they can kind of like ride around like anything, but it actually is that much of a difference. And like if you can afford it, then you should just 100% do it, because there is like a crazy difference. But for you, dude, like going through the thing with the KTM shocks, for like the people that would listen that would want to know what the difference is, like the level at which the shock heats up, like the oil in the shock heats up in a stock shock riding a supercross track for 20 laps is just out of control. Like you almost have no rebound, or like, I mean, you still have compression from the spring, but the biggest thing you lose is like rebound, essentially, because when the shock's coming out, the oil's so thin and hot that it just doesn't have the same viscosity. So it's like the level of stoke that you would have had by going to a normal shock, not just for the handling, but even the fact that your bike would have stayed rideable for 20 laps.
Yeah, like through the whoops was the biggest thing that I was struggling with. And, you know, I got to give a plug to Decker Suspension out of Kansas City. He's the one that, you know, helped me make that transition, because I was running race tech stuff last year, and they don't really deal with the A-kit shocks a bunch. So that's why we made the transition to going to WP settings, which obviously I think would help me a little bit more when it comes to my, well, at least at the beginning of the year, my hopes of getting some support through KTM. Like obviously not riding their bike or anything like that, but I was like, you know, KTM, stock KTM, the whole image behind them is ready to race, right? Like that's their saying. Your boy is the spitting image of that, because the bike is the exact same way I bought it. It's got a recluse clutch, FMF pipe, it's got redline oil in it, and that's it. Like that's literally all that's done to my bike, and VP race fuel. Yeah. So that's the only thing that I've done. So I was expecting, you know, like, hey, if we can go out, show that we can get up front, at least do better, main events all year and get everything like that, if they would give me some kind of parts allowance or, you know, some support here and there. But it's been pretty much nothing so far. But hey, you know, we're still striving for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, I think holeshotting mains and, you know, kind of like just, it's all visibility, right?
Yeah.
So I guess let's keep going into the program, because I think it's like super interesting. So I guess, where did you start to, I guess, like get momentum with it? Or what were your first ideas of like, okay, this is what I'm going to do?
So the biggest, I'll just go through my experience, right?
Yeah,
so here's for the privateers, the people trying to make it happen, key in right now. So I started out going business to business, asking for a check to help me go racing kind of deal. You get told no a lot more than you get told yes to an extent. So you had to deal with, you know, getting 20 no's to 1 yes, but that 1 yes could be the difference that you need. So from there, that was more or less a lot of kids in our industry do this, where you're just going to ask for money kind of deal. That's kind of where I was at the beginning and got told no a lot. Transitioned into, hey, if you give me X amount, I'll do this for you. And that changed the game right there, showing some value, trying to give something back so it's not a one-way road. A lot more yeses at that point. So then it got to the point where I was doing jersey logo placement, bike logo placement at a monthly rate or something like that. And I had people commit to it. And I don't want to be the guy that if you're supposed to pay me $200 a month or something like that, whatever the price was for something back then, you pay 1 month, beautiful. You pay the next month, beautiful, thank you. Third month rolls around, you're not sending nothing. I don't want to have to be the guy that's like, yo, are you going to send it this month kind of deal? Yeah. So I kind of got tired of that situation. So then I referred to either the payment up front, or I was like, let's start a Patreon kind of deal, right? So it was kind of a mixed signal there. So that was one of the issues I was having, is getting people that were committing to doing a monthly deal because they didn't want to do a lump sum, to paying consistently. And then times that by, in 2021, when I did a hybrid 250 and 450 year, I crashed in Atlanta and got life flighted. So they were just worried about my lungs, everything like that. I ended up walking out the next day at the hospital with just a couple like a bruised lung, couple broken ribs. But I was off the bike for 3/4 of outdoors. So from the end of Supercross, 3/4 outdoors. As a Supercross racer, as a motocross racer, somebody in our industry, as a privateer, you don't have a team backing you. You don't have a salary. You don't have anybody that's there that you have contracted money coming in. So I sat there for 6 months with nothing coming in to an extent. Like, I had some good sponsors that still had my back. They helped me with certain things and whatnot. But luckily at that point, I'm still living with my parents kind of deal. So didn't have any crazy bills. But I was like, this kind of sucks, man. Like, how do I, besides get and go home and, let's go mow some lawns and do some other stuff like entrepreneurship style stuff. But if you're hurt and you have to be on the couch, what are you doing? So that's when I was like, I need to find a way that I can have a monthly subscription service that it's like just charges their card like you pay for your Apple account or something like that. And how can I get people involved that don't have a business, right? There's a lot of people around me that just love what I have going on, have an extra $20, extra $100 here. They don't have a business or a logo that they want to put behind it, but that's kind of a tough little gap to fill. So I was like, how can I create a monthly income for myself while getting fans involved and creating some kind of experience, right? Because it's a lot easier to go after people that want to support your program if you can give them a different experience. So that's what I thought was really cool. It was like, Patreon's the move. That's because I heard, certain podcasts, people doing that. And I think somebody had maybe done it in the past, but I had never really seen it brought into the moto industry. So then I just started building it. I put the whole idea together, posted it up, was super stoked. I'm like, dude, I'm going to have 1,000 people join this thing in a week. Like, still to this day, I think I fluctuate in between like 115 to like 130 Patreons. So it's like not a ton, right? But obviously I have different levels, which KevinMoranz.com, hit the Joins Moranz Mafia tab or the Moranz Mafia tab to check it out. However, you can get in at $5 is the lowest cost right now. And that gets you, the behind the scenes content, entered in certain giveaways, XYZ. We have a YCF pit bike that we're giving away that you can, which has changed from last year to this year, that last year you could only get entries for that if you're a part of the Moranz Mafia. This year you get pretty much 2 times entries if you're a part of the Moranz Mafia, or you can go do a $10 program donation via the website, kevinmoranz.com, and that gets you entered for the YCF pit bike too. So there's so many different avenues, $5 to $20 to $45 to $65 to $95. $65 gets your name on my fork tube. $95 a month gets your name on my front fender. $200 a month gets your name bigger on the front fender. And then I've got one top tier Patreon, Michelle Halol, shout out to her, which is the biggest spot. It's top tier Patreon, right? So there's trying to create a monthly income was where this whole thing started, and that's where the Patreon idea came from. So stack that on top of the helmet wraps, on top of the bike branding, which those are 2 different things as well. So I do a different helmet wrap for every round. That's like a different business. Do a little vlog shout out. Have a basic package where you do the helmet wrap, assign the visor, ship you the visor, or you do the VIP wrap if you're a baller, assign the helmet, you get to keep the helmet after the races. So that's like a cool marketing piece for businesses that want to help or people that need exposure. Plus it gives them a desk or like a cool piece to put on their desk that creates conversations between clients and stuff that's not just, hey, will you come buy my products kind of deal. So that's where I've been able to position myself good with GREE. Is GREE obviously loves what I have going on. They love my exposure, the amount of TV time that I'm getting, which is just honestly kind of ridiculous, at least at the beginning of the year, especially last year through the LCQs and whatnot. Not being in the LCQs, you don't get as much TV time. So there's some pros and cons of that. But I'll take no LCQs all day. But yeah, GREE's behind it because the publicity and the things that I do, plus certain people, at least within their industry, they don't want to just talk about air conditioners all day. They want to be like, hey, did you see Kevin this weekend? Yada, yada, yada. Shoot the shit with their boys or their current clients and then selling products, not always being about business. So, yeah, man, the helmet wraps, bike branding, different logos for each for each round, the Moranz Mafia, all the social media stuff that I do. And then on top of that is selling space on the bike. So you get this logo, you get this, yada, yada, yada. You'll be the first name that's announced when they announce Kevin Moranz on the Tank Masters, KTM gets the whole shot. You know what I mean? Like those different kinds of packages. It's been a creative process to pretty much set myself up for later in life. Like I'm not necessarily thinking, oh, what do I need to do to get that factory ride? What do I need to do to get this and this and this? I'm trying to set myself up for all my helmet wraps. I like doing product swaps, honestly, more because like, yo, I want a filled toolbox for a helmet wrap because then that's going to be more value for me. I'm technically going to get an asset for cheaper than what I can buy it for, because they're going to give it to me at their cost or something like that, or work out a trade deal. And then when I'm done racing, your boy's got a field toolbox to work on all his stuff and toys and whatnot when he's older.
Yeah.
So like that's the way I look at it, is I'm trying to get all the products and everything that I want for when I'm done racing, so then I'm set after racing to an extent.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's like my mindset behind the whole thing, on top of YouTube, getting the fan interaction, getting the kids involved, just having so much fun with it that it's a fun life. I'm not working. You know what I mean? I just enjoy it.
Yeah, and you can really see that as well in your vlogs. Like I watched I think Seattle, when like Paige come up, and like, you know, you even got Paige putting money in, and then she signed the fender, and it's just so cool to see. Like it's a fucking genius idea, dude. Literally, like you're sitting in the pits and you've got people that are just giving you $100 bills to sign your bike, and it's like they're stoked, dude. They're super stoked to be a part of what you've got going on. They get in the vlog, and I think that it just goes to show that. That's sort of like what I said before, you know, like you don't need Red Bull as a sponsor. You don't need Monster. Like you can have this really cool engagement with fans, and it's like way more of, it feels like a grassroots kind of level deal, you know?
Yeah. And I don't know. Like I smile every time about it, because like I just truly enjoy it. And it's a different way of going about it. I would love an energy drink sponsor, by the way. I'll throw that out there right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, like there's nothing that's super corporate about it. The most corporate sponsor I have is probably Gree, and there's a lot of specifics that they look for within the program, but I'm even learning within myself and within my program to adjust it to make it more efficient. You know, providing photos from each round to certain sponsors. There's a lot of different packages, man, and like I could spend the next month straight, lock me in this room right here, like I would be busy for an entire month on things that I could change and make better within my program. It's just, dude, I don't have time all the time. So
yeah,
I don't know.
And so I guess that's sort of probably like a good next place to go, is just over time. I think that I start to look at my life in years now, like in year blocks. Like 2023 for me is like this type of year where I'm like, all right, I know that I've just moved. I'll be hopefully in the US all summer, and it's like, all right, I've got this thing here, I've got this to do, and then it's like by October, like my life's full until October, because it's like you said, you've got locked me in a room for a month. I've got stuff to do. Like I've got this project, I'm working towards this, and you just start like. It's like clicking off the laps, but they're years of building your business and building these kind of processes. And I think that's sort of like what I lean on as fulfillment in a sense. Like, and any time I'm like kind of bummed in the moment, I'm like, it's all good. You've got a plan, stick to the plan. And then, you know, those days are going to pass, and then like you'll be in Barcelona for this week, and then you'll be in the US here, and then you'll be doing this, and then you'll be doing this. And I think that that's one cool thing about what you're doing as well, is that it's a big project to undertake, and you're going to be busy for years now, and you're going to be constantly refining this process, constantly, you know, figuring out more efficient ways to get things done. And then the next thing will be like, okay, the money's rolling good. How do I now get to focus more on myself and my racing? Like, I think AJ Catanzaro is a really good example of this. You know, like he's having the best Supercross season of his life because he's just grinded super hard on the business end for the last couple of years. And it's like he's now got the business to a point where he's got people working, people doing the things that, you know, took him away from racing before. So yeah, it's a very cool kind of like process orientated thing that you're involved with now.
Yeah, I have a lot of respect for AJ as well. Like he's kind of one of my buddies. I've talked to him, kind of gotten some ideas and whatnot, and bounced some ideas off of him as well. He's probably, I would have to say, by far the most at least set up within the industry that's not like factory or anything like that. Like, dude, homie's whatever he had to do to partner with Jet and Hunter. That's what I told him when I was at the airport. I was like, whatever you had to do to make that deal happen. I was like, marketing genius right there, because that is exponential growth from that right there.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. I can't obviously take all of his ideas, but I would love to kind of figure out how to incorporate a training side into the Moranz Mafia. But that's something that you can need to lock me in a room for a week to figure out kind of deal. So eventually I'll get there with that and the growth. But yeah, man, it's just constantly having something to do and trying to make it work.
Yeah. So what's an average week for you look like in Supercross?
Oh man, so that's what's tough for me as well, is not having, which I'm super stoked to have, the Chamber family, Jack Chambers and his whole family. And honestly, it might be a little bit weird now with the whole Sexton thing, but I've been riding with Sexton and Starling and those guys, and made a deal with them to ride down at their track, so then I'm not having to rent my own house and everything like that, because I'm staying with the Callow family, which they came up and rode my track before the winter, because their mechanic Jordan lives close to me back home, so he wanted to come back home, brought the kids with him. They rode at my track instead of doing anything for paying me or anything like that. We ended up working a deal where I could just come down and stay in like an extra room in Tampa. So I've been staying down in Tampa. I drove out to Anaheim. I attempted to drive out to Anaheim. 15 minutes in, my fan transmission went out, so that was, I don't know if you've seen anything about that, but that was a nightmare. Yeah, so that was like kind of the coolest thing, at least for when it started, right? So leave for A1, 15 minutes in the drive, which thank goodness 15 minutes, not 15 hours, because it's a 24-hour drive.
Yeah.
And are we all good?
Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. So yeah, 15 minutes of the drive, van transmission goes out. I had never experienced anything like that before. It felt like it just went into neutral to an extent. So then I called my dad and I was like, hey, I don't know what just happened, but just drive down the road real quick. We got to tow this thing back. So we ended up having a loaner van literally overnight, took everything out of my van, built up a quick wall, and packed everything in there so then I could leave the next day. So like there's a whole video on that on YouTube too, of the whole experience, like it blowing up, me like videoing, like I hope this is not going to make a vlog, but if my van just blew up, there's going to be a story behind this. So we did that whole thing, got out to A1, made a story behind it, and then right after that, since I'm in this other van, I was like, I got 4 weeks to get this van fixed, because I'm coming back home after all these Cali rounds to grid my van. I want my van, like, you know what I mean? So then it's like crowdsourcing and trying to crowdfund how to replace a transmission, because that's $6,000 right there pretty much. So went through, raced A1, ended up making the first main event, which was huge for me, because last year it took me until round 6 to make a main event. So to make main event at round 1, Kev was stoked. I was all about it. So the whole van situation and everything, because as soon as I got out to California before round 1, I went up to Mumford's to ride because it was raining everywhere in California, and pull in this first day. One of the first days I was able to ride because of how much rain it goes. Pull in, boom, nail goes right through my tire as I stop and pull up next to like Benny and all those, like tires going flat. And I'm like, dude, it's just one thing after another. I just did so much to get in a different van to get out here, and now it's just a shit show to an extent. And then that next day, rode at Mumford's, cased a jump on top of a rock on my race bike, because I'm trying to like break my race bike in. Don't notice it, case, roam, boom, finish up my moto, go to the track. Next day is Friday, so I have to prep my own bike. So I change my oil, change my clutch, get everything ready to go, new graphics. I'm doing everything like that on Friday, but when I go to change my oil and then change my clutch, lean the bike over, lean it up against the stand or whatever on the fork, pop the clutch cover off, and I'm looking at it and I'm like, bro, I caved my frame in on the bottom. It's still the same bike I'm racing today. So like the frame, we got video right here. So the frame is like this. I don't know how. Yeah, frame is like this, right? And then it goes up where the motor is. Yeah, it is like completely mushroomed. Like the frame is squished on the bottom, and I saw that 4 p.m. on Friday before A1, and I'm like, bro, I can't. There's no way I can swap a motor. Nah. Or just like, I mean, I would have to change everything. Yeah, I would have to do, like, I was like, I would have to ride my practice bike. But at that point, I was like, the practice bike's not really, like, I had already just changed the clutch. I changed everything. Like, this bike's ready to go. It's 4 p.m. on Friday. I'm like, bro, I'm racing it. Like, it's still the same bike. I just holeshotted everybody on it. It's just a caved in stock frame. It is what it is, dude. So that was a whole cool situation. But the crowdsourcing behind that, we did like a jersey giveaway right after that. And, you know, hey, go grab a program donation via the website, which is $10 donation. If you do that right now, you'll get entered not only for the YCF pit bike that we're giving away at the end of the season, Supercross season, because we have that going on all season. But if you do it right now, you'll have a chance to win this signed jersey. And on top of it, we're trying to raise enough funds to pay for this transmission kind of deal. So that went really well. I ended up raising $5,640, and it cost me $4,900 to replace the transmission and $800 because I had to replace the radiator too. So it came out $5,640 was the amount raised. $5,695 is how much it cost me.
That's
so I was like, and I even made a whole video that I was like, dude, thank you guys so much. Like we're $50 off. You guys paid for it. Thank you so much, kind of deal. So it's just getting creative and giving that experience, right? So
yeah.
That's the biggest thing is if you're helping somebody, it's just like fantasy football. So obviously football is my second favorite sport. I played football all the way through high school. Love it, right? But it's fantasy football just gives me a different
perspective on the game,
and like enjoyment for when football season rolls around, because I'm invested. I'm like actually like playing with the boys and whatnot. It's a competition, or like I'm supporting something. I have somebody to cheer for. If somebody comes on and joins the Patreon, they're supporting somebody they get to watch on TV. So then, especially now, like when you're on the gate, everybody's got their eyes on Kev. Like, "Ooh, what's Kev gonna do today?" You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's cool to have a little bit. You just got to try to give an experience, and hopefully people get behind it. And that's how I pay for all of my racing, pretty much.
Dude, you're so right about that whole like fantasy football deal. When I was in the States for probably like the first 3 or 4 years, I was like, I don't get football shit. Like I would compare it to rugby back home. I was like, this game sucks. And then it was Nate Ramsey actually got me into a fantasy football league. He was like, wait, just get in there. He's like, you won't know anything about it, but and so I had to like just pick my players, like pick my team each week. Fully changed the game for me. From then on, I was like fully into football, and then like even now I can watch. I learn all the rules. I like learn the whole kind of deal, and it actually made me a fan. So you're completely right in what you're saying.
Yeah, because like that the fantasy football side of things, like I think that helps us with like the PulpMX, the RM fantasy stuff, and now MotoBookie is a new like betting website that's starting to come out too within the racing. Is if you did not have, or let's just say I did not have fantasy, I'm from Kansas City Chiefs, all the way, right? Super Bowl champs, what up? Yeah. But anyway, it allows me to enjoy watching other teams and other players and other things going on. Otherwise, if I didn't have fantasy football, it'd be Chiefs, and then I wouldn't watch anything else kind of deal.
Yeah.
So having that intertwined into our industry, right? You got the Tomac fans, the Roxon fans, the Barsha fans, the Sexton, Webb, that are picking their players, but then, you know, they want to score some max points. They want to get, you know, I think our fantasy or whatever has like the whoever's getting 14th, 15th, the wild
cards.
Like it gets you, it brings attention to more people in our sport than just the top 5, which is pretty cool. Yeah,
it creates like a spread that you're interested in. And because I think that's one of the things that is probably like not needs to change, but it one of the things that like a 10th isn't that respected in the sport, you know, and it's like that's a problem because it's like that's the best dudes in the world. Like anyone can go. It's one of the unique things about the sport, really. Like anyone can enter into a Supercross race. Like what world championship? Like if you're a baseball player, like you just can't enter the World Series, you know. So it's like do you think you're one of the best Supercross races in the world? Okay, dude, roll up to the stadium, like get your points, get your license, roll up to the stadium, pay your entry fee, qualify in the top 40, and then you get a shot at the main event. Like in theory, anyone can go and do it, and it's like super unique. So, but what that means is that those dudes on that gate on that night are the best guys in the world. So if you get a 10th, you're the 10th best dude in the world that night. If you get a 20th, you're the 20th best Supercross racer in the world. And I think that sometimes that gets lost on like the industry and the fans in a sense. So I think that it's cool to, because dude, like And you see this all the time. Like, if you go to Paris on a day where there's no factory dudes out there, like Paris Supercross or like an Elsinore, the fastest dude at the track looks like a G. You know, he might, but then if you put Chase Sexton there, then the conversation starts looking a little bit different. But when you don't have the reference of those top guys, like, man, Kevin Moranz at a, you know, Elsinore, like, that's a bad dude on a motorcycle. And we're only talking a few seconds difference. So I think you're right, like bringing that, I guess, like highlighting a dude that's getting 14th. I mean, that's still a bad fucking guy right there.
Trust me, those LCQs are not fun. So when you do get to that point and get into those main events, literally the top 10 all have championships.
Yeah.
Right now. And so whether it's 250, 450, yada, 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 like, it is absolutely insane. And even a lot of the guys that are out there that I'm even racing right now, like, dude, they were lapping me last year to an extent. So, like, that's where the progress for me means so much, is because I'm now, I would have to say, I'm one of those guys that's from the 14 to 18 range, probably. And the amount of potential that I have, being probably one of the younger ones in the class, and obviously doing probably more than any other privateer that is racing in those main events. Not saying most privateers ever, but there's so much more that I put effort into that takes away from my training, from my riding, from getting better, because I just have to do so many things to make my program work that, yeah, like, I need to stop just like intertwining this back into my program. But yeah, dude, like, a top 15 in the main event right now is very legit.
Yeah. And so how much riding do you get to do through the week? Like,
that's what we were talking about. We went on a tangent there. Your first question was what we do on a week looks like for me. So that's where, yeah, I got awful on the tangent because I gave you the whole van story. But after I came back from California, drove back, and swapped out vans, drove down to Houston, then drove to Tampa. Then now I'm staying with the family that obviously they came and rode at my house, yada, yada, yada. So now I fly out on Thursdays because I have to be there either for Friday morning press, and then also I need to be there in the morning because I do all my own bike work, right? Like, I'm not like, I would say actually pretty confidently everybody else on that main event line, whether it's their dad or has somebody else there, does their bike work for them, majority of it at least, and they're not there until 5 p.m. working on their bike, then making marketing videos, then doing a helmet wrap video, then doing a, you know, shout out because I got some plastics because I just took all my own plastics off and put different graphics on. But hey, Moranz Mafia, if you guys want to come out, I got signed plastics for you guys. Like, I'm there all day. So I have to fly out on Thursday, ride, get the bike ready, yada, 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 do my marketing, do my videos. That's what Friday looks like. Saturday, obviously the races. Sunday, usually fly home. Sunday afternoon-ish, just try to chill. Monday is more of like probably a cycle, stretch, something chill. Tuesday, probably do some riding. And then Wednesday, Tuesday, Wednesday's kind of a mix-up. I usually only ride one day a week. Usually it's only a couple motos, nothing super crazy, just kind of keeping the rust off more or less. Especially just because of all the things that I do. That's what happened to me last year, is I just ran myself into a hole to an extent, body health-wise. So it's just such a toll that, yeah, one day of riding a week, try to do something semi-active, maybe another little cycle or stretch or a little bit of gym work on Wednesday, boom, fly out Thursday, repeat. Like, it's so much, dude. I don't even know how to explain it. So much that I have to do that takes away from not being able to ride 2 or 3 days a week, fly in and out, have all my bike work done. Because, like, if I want to go ride that one day, like, for instance, Monday right now, getting ready to fly back Tuesday, I blew out a couple spokes on my rear wheel the last day I was riding before I came out to Phoenix. So I'm going to have to wake up Wednesday morning, take my tire off, put spokes in, put a tire back on, put my bike together, go through my bike before I head to the track on Wednesday, just to go to the track on Wednesday, do some laps, come back, guess what? Got to wash my own bike, got to change the oil, got to do all that. maybe stretch a little bit. Oh, what do you know? I don't even have my helmet wrap or my graphics or anything else like that put together. So then I got to hop on, stay up till midnight, getting all the emails together, put everything together, get graphics shipped overnight, put everything there, boom, fly out Thursday, get there, put everything together, put the helmet wrap together, put my bike, get my bike all set up, do the helmet wrap video, do the marketing video, edit them, send them to the guy, post them on Instagram, do some Instagram reel stuff from press. Dude, like, I could go on for days of just all the little stuff that I do that people don't see behind the scenes.
Yeah, no, man, I feel you, bro. So you're doing outdoors as well. Like, have you ever thought about not doing outdoors and trying to like consolidate all of your effort into like a good Supercross season, and then like build you, because you're so limited for time, it's like just spend all outdoors, like training for Supercross, trying to get better, trying to progress, like take the steps from like the riding perspective, and then do like the business side of things as well, like getting all the decks and then like just fully focusing on that outdoor series? Or like, what's your thoughts around that?
I'm definitely behind it. So last year, it's going to be a little bit, it's going to be kind of the same thing as this year, right? So I would love to. Personally, I enjoy Supercross a lot more than outdoors. Do I still love outdoors? Yes, but it's being on my own, like, because I'm actually on my own for outdoors. My team is maybe thinking about doing outdoors if they can get enough, outside support plus enough riders to do it. It's more or less just a privateer dude coming in, pay X amount of money, get your stuff transported to each round kind of deal, which works super well for a person like me that has a program like me. But Chris, which is the guy that takes me to the line at every round, he's not doing outdoors. So he'd be sitting the trailer and then a truck, somebody else driving it. So I've got to figure out if that driver could maybe help me on the weekend, so then I'm not having to fly a mechanic to each round. Or like last year, I kind of got the fans involved a little bit, just had different people at each round help me as a mechanic, and then filmers and whatnot too, because my filmer ended up getting hurt. And so, dude, like, it's tough. I would love to not have to do outdoors and put that focus in. However, for me this year, since my van whole situation went down, and then my goal this year is to get a new van for next year, it's probably going to have to race so I can make money to pay for that van kind of deal.
Yeah.
Unless there's a sponsor out there that wants me to wrap it in their logos and they give me a van kind of deal. So that's the situation. But I would love to do World Supercross as well. I obviously excel at Supercross, the starts, I'm a very consistent rider, I would like to think. Obviously I haven't proved that when I'm up top in front and whatnot, but that's because that's new territory for me. We're getting there. We'll figure that on out. But yeah, pretty consistent rider. So Supercross plays in my favor a little bit more when it comes to the technicality side of things, because outdoors, all of us growing up, not anybody, but most people can just rip an outdoor track without having to think about it. So the competition's a little bit tougher. It's a little bit harder to separate yourself, and it's way more work, way more wear and tear on the bike, way more work, wear and tear on the body. Yeah. So yeah, I guess a really long answer there. Sorry. But yes, I would love to do that. Don't know if I have the budget and the funding to do it, because it's a lot easier for me to go racing and make money than, trying to focus on just the training and making things better when it's just a one-man show.
Yeah.
So that's where a team would play a big part in that, or even an outdoor team. Like, I would love that. Any opportunities there, or any opportunities in World Supercross where I can do some outdoors, or if I'm a full on the team for World Supercross, okay, let's not do outdoors and worry about World Supercross kind of deal. But I would also like to maybe try to keep myself in the fight, since I'm around that top 20 in points, to do the Super Motocross last 3 rounds. So it's like, there's so many different things that I would maybe want to do, but at the same time, like, I don't have any irons in the fire for World Supercross. I would love to. If some team has an opportunity out there. Don't have any irons in the fire for outdoors, as far as like a fill-in ride, like, that'd be super sick. I was actually about to head down to the Husky team, or the Husky compound or whatever, before I came out here. Just ended up not having enough time, but like, they may need somebody for outdoors, so that may be a fill-in situation. But it's going wherever you have an opportunity. And for me, this off season, my goal is to get a new van and make a new van work, so then I'm not having to stress my van shitting out on me again to an extent. So I don't know, we'll see.
Yeah, I think maybe I can I can probably just at least put you in touch with the World Supercross guys to see like if there's any opportunities, because I think for me it just seems to make a lot of sense for you to just focus on the Supercross stuff, because I think just the fact that you're so young as well in the 450 class, and like doing really good with so little in a sense, you know, like, and the fact that you just don't really get to ride that much. Like there probably is, like you said, a lot on the table when it comes to just the way that you can progress as a rider with kind of the right opportunity. But it's so hard, like it's so hard. That's such a cart before the horse kind of thing, you know, like that you've got to prove that on your own. Like, yeah, the potential's there, and it's like it's easy to say. Same as me, like I always say to people, like, man, if I could actually sit and do 4 podcasts a week, I'd be fucking chilling, you know. But it's like, okay, well, you should do that then, and I'm like, yeah, but I got to do this and then this. So it's like that's just the nature of, you know, like this game in a sense, is like no one's just gonna give me a check that would like pay for this, and then that's the program sort of sorted. So yeah, I don't know, man, maybe the World Supercross thing is like a good option if there's like a team out there that needs a solid guy, because I think like if you could really focus on, if you had the ability to focus on your off season essentially, and you know, get the new sponsors and get the, you know, the van dialed and actually put in the work to get better at riding, you know, because that was one of the things that like it sort of stands out to me when you ride, is like you actually just look like an athlete as well. And it makes sense when you said you did wrestling and played football in high school. So it's like, I think your athleticism is almost like getting you to where you're at now in a sense. And it's like there's probably a lot of bike skill and bike time there's probably a lot that bike time would do in terms of like skill and speed.
Absolutely. And like even so, another, like the biggest thing for me too, which, you know, I love my suspension people as well, but I don't have anybody at the races for suspension, right? So when I literally, like, I'm sure there's videos of it, or I know we have videos of it, when I pull in through qualifying, I pull in most of the time, I grab my screwdriver from the mechanic, lay down on the ground, adjust the rebound on my forks, whatever. Like I'm doing, and I'm kind of guessing what I think I need to change for suspension stuff. That's one thing. Like I would even love to, which obviously, hopefully I'm kind of opening Roger's eyes and some other the people's eyes and whatnot, kind of starting in front of their guys here and there, but is just having help with maybe suspension, right? So like they don't have to do my suspension unless they have time. Obviously they have a lot of people, but as simple as, yo, can you just watch me and give me some feedback with what you think I should do? That's the biggest thing for me at this point. I think would be a massive help that wouldn't be a major burden on anybody, is just something like that. So there's just so many different levels to this when it comes to what we can do or what can be done. It's just like you said, just getting in an opportunity and finding the time to make it happen. Yeah.
I think definitely like the super motocross playoff thing is interesting too. Like it kind of gives, I don't know what the prize money is kind of like all the way down, but you know, there is some like obviously more prize money there. When you say like you can't afford like not to race, so what's the income that's going to come for you through the outdoors?
So the biggest thing for me, right? So like Patreon, for an instance.
Yeah.
There's X amount of people. Obviously, you see the front fender. There's a lot of people that are paying to be on the front fender because the bike is racing. If I just sit on the couch, more or less, a lot of those people aren't going to be just paying for a bike to sit in the garage. So that is the situation. Obviously, I literally pretty much, besides a couple of the product sponsors, you know, I sell every spot on my motorcycle. So X amount for the biggest on the shroud, the first announced when, you know, Kevin Moranz on the Tank Masters KTM gets the whole shot kind of deal, you know, all the way to the top of the shroud, to the little parts of the shroud, to the back fender, to the front fender, to the sides of the fender, to literally every part of the dirt bike. Like there's different paychecks, or at least support that's then paying for flights, hotels, fuel, parts, entry fees, etc. So it's just, it's being able to continue the business, so then you continue making money instead of just kind of like clipping it to an extent. So it's not like I can't, but it's at the same time, it's like it's a lot more beneficial if I just kind of keep pushing through.
Yeah. I just wonder if there is a happy like kind of medium there, you know, because I know that in I guess just in business in general, it's like growing pains, you know. It's like you're trying to hit the next level, but it's like you almost need to consolidate your efforts at a point and then like take what you've learned and then go like, all right, I'm gonna wait here, or not like wait here, but it's like, this is what I would really need to do to go into this next season with a bang, instead of, because like I always say to people in terms of like my business and what I've got going on, is like, I feel like I have 10 little fires going. And it's like, I really need like the fires would be like revenue streams or like ways that of like momentum or results in business. And it's like, do I slow down and make one really big fire? And, you know, or do you just keep going with like these 10 little fires, or what have you got to do? Does one fire have to go out for a while to get this one bigger to then it's easy to make, you know? So it's like this constant kind of balance between these different things that you've got going on, you know? And it's like, yeah, maybe there is a way to because I think like with just like your progression every year in Supercross, like that's going to be your biggest payday really, is like that, doing well in that Supercross season. So it's just like, I don't know, that to me, I'm like, for 2024 Supercross, like that's going to be by far your best year, business wise, results wise. So like in my mind, I'm from like the outside looking in, I'm like, all right, what could you do to like really guarantee that kind of success in 2024, where like everything gets leveled up, from the sponsors, the packages, your physical performance, your race, you know what I mean?
You get me amped up here, man. I'm not gonna lie. The biggest thing for me, that's the question mark, I think, for putting more focus into the 2024 season, is I'm not really sure what bike I'm going to be riding.
Yeah.
Because I really want to stay on KTM. However, I've never ridden the 23. I'm scared to go to the 23. I don't know why. Obviously, they struggled with it a little bit last year. They've got it figured out this year. Coop's back in the game. I don't know. And I'm just going to be super honest. Like, I'm not getting paid by KTM or anything like that. I don't know what they changed on Coop's bike to make him like it compared to a production bike, which I'm going to be on. You know what I mean? So that's what scares me, because I know it. I know the 22. I like the 22. I've got suspension for the 22. So then, like, what do? Do I try to stay on my 22s and then make a little bit more investment in maybe the suspension side, trying to get a suspension guy to the races kind of deal? Like, I've heard that somebody told me that that's kind of like what Weston Pike did when he was in his come up kind of deal. And so that's like, it's a very big question mark for me. So I don't have like a solid direction, right? Like, I'd love for Roger, one of those guys, to Ian, to be like, hey, Kev, like, I know obviously you're doing pretty good. Appreciate you always keeping honest with the KTMs like I have the last 3 years. You're doing good. You're pulling good starts. You're in the media quite a bit. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to give you 2-3 of the new bikes, a little bit of a parts allowance, and that's pretty much it kind of deal. Like, I would be pretty stoked with that, to then have the support and then, you know, be able to ask them questions, have that feel the communication where I'm like, yo, I'm struggling a little bit with this. Like, what did you guys do? Like, I don't need your parts that you're not even going to want to give me, or I can't even buy if I had all the money in the world kind of deal, but like, give me some direction on what we need to do to get me as competitive on the new bike as the old bike. But I'm Kevin Moranz. I'm a one-man show to an extent. It's so terrifying for me to go then invest in that bike without knowing what I'm going to get into, knowing that I have to change so many parts, and those parts being so hard to get right now.
Yeah.
So that's like the biggest thing for me. So yeah, I mean, I really like that thought process, and I think at some point it's going to get there. But at the same time, it's super tough for me because like last year I did a lot of one-off events too. Like, I raced through outdoors. I did Paris Supercross. I did Red Bull Straight Rhythm, which is kind of always on my bucket list, which was really cool. So like, I had a lot going on top of building the Supercross track. And then I got, you know, I was on the 2-stroke trying to get ready for Red Bull Straight Rhythm, then came back. Then boom, we had Paris, and I was planning on doing all of my suspension testing in between straight rhythm and Paris, boom, got sick as a dog for like 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks, left for Paris without a day on the bike in the last 3 weeks, just raced Paris with what I had, ended up kind of having a hand injury after that. At that point, it was too cold to even ride the track that I just built at home.
Yeah.
So then I went out to California to try to get a week and a half out there. It's pouring rain, so I get literally no time on Supercross because besides a few days and then those races I did. And clearly have just been compounding and building every single weekend. So like it seems like that's the biggest move for me right now is, like you said, getting the program together and dialed a little bit quicker. Obviously I already have the track built right now. Like I'll probably have Dirtworks come in, do a different design or whatever, but like the facility is kind of set up at this point. This past year moving into this year was a bunch of building and making things happen. So I'm hoping I can reap the rewards of all that effort and work put in this coming year.
Yeah.
But yeah, the biggest thing for me right now is I just don't know what bike I'm going to be on and all the parts that change, and it's a tough move. That's why I'm kind of like holding back on the old bike right now.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like I struggle to think that changing to new bikes is worth it. You know, like I got that gas here, and it's a 2021, and it's the old shape. That bike won 2 Supercross championships. Like, what change? Like, I personally think that there's not really these crazy leaps forward that would drastically impact a lap time on a motorcycle. I mean, KTM has to make a new bike. Like, they can't just keep the 20. They go like, all right, well, yeah, we nailed it here. They can't just like keep it forever, you know. Like, so the Cowie 450 is based off the Honda 08 frame, basically. 2008. Like, that's an old ass motor. You know what I mean? Like, that was a long time ago. It's only a certain window that these bikes and shit can even operate in, and it's like, yeah, EFI, massive. Like, you cannot race a bike with a carburetor in Supercross. Like, that would be fucking dumb. And, you know, like, there's suspension. You got to have good suspension. Like, you got to have good. But like, as far as a new bike, like, if you can do a full build on a 2022 KTM, and it's like, what are you giving up? Like, really, you're not giving up anything in my opinion. Like, if that thing's fresh and it's like built the way that you want to do it, like, dude, look at Kenny's the perfect example of this too. It's like, he's on a Suzuki that realistically hasn't changed in a long ass time. So it's like, I don't know, man, I wouldn't, if I was you, like, I would not feel the pressure to change to a new platform, and like, you'd be just putting yourself behind the 8 ball massively again to then, like you said, have to get new suspension, go through that whole process. Like, I don't see that being worth it. Like, what do you gain on the motorcycle?
It's scary, man. And the only thing that I would forfeit, I think, which I'm not sure what the rule is to race. I think the race, you can race a 5-year-old bike to an extent, but I know KTM wise, you can only race a 2-year-old bike to get contingency. So I would be sacrificing all my contingency. But I don't think that's a make or break thing as long as I'm making the main events and I'm doing good otherwise. Like, as long as I'm comfortable. But
why don't you go to a gas and ride a 2023 gas 450, not a 2023.5?
That is a potential that I've kind of been thinking about as well. I don't know. Maybe we just need to hit up. I don't know. There comes Roger as well. You know what I mean? Hey, move me over to the gas side of things. You don't have a whole lot of people on those bikes. You know, it would be sweet to get some kind of support. I'm not going to stress it if I don't. I'm going to always find a way to make it work. It's the way I've always been. It's the way I'm always going to be. But, you know, it's not like I need to get a factory ride at this point. Obviously, we're working to that, and eventually we'll get there. But, you know, some sort of support would be sweet, considering I'm kind of like been trying to stay loyal to KTM and all those, you know, the gas Husky, that kind of brand. I'm not scared of going to a different color, like if there's an opportunity that prevails and brings itself to me, but it's a constant grind. We just got to keep trying to open their eyes.
Yeah, I think, I reckon 2023 gas is the move then. Just switch over to the 450. Keep that way. Does gas do contingency? Like, is it all the same thing?
I think they do. Like, I know for KTM, like, that's what the Cowie guys are always harping on me for, because they're making such good money. KTM only pays for if you're in the main event. So if you don't make the main event, you don't get anything.
So what do you make putting a KTM in the main event?
Take a guess.
Oh, fuck, bro. I would have $400.
Bingo.
Really?
To get 16th to 22nd, $400.
Fuck.
450 main event.
Okay. So what about the Cowie guys? What are they getting?
I think they get 300 for night show. I think they get like 1,000 for main, or 800 more for a main or something like that, or like $1,300 for top 15.
Damn.
Like our changes. So KTM right now is 22nd to 16th in the main events, $400. I think 15th to like 10th is $500. 11th place, like getting 11th place in the 450 main event, here's $500, buddy. You know what I mean? Like as a privateer, like, bruh, 6 more spots or whatever, you're paying your guys $50,000.
Dude,
you know what I mean?
That's crazy.
So that's why I've had to get so creative with my program. The helmet wraps, the people, getting the fans involved, getting them to rally, you know, grabbing the new merch, kevinmoranz.com, just little stuff like that, man. It's because, you know, people would probably be pretty disgusted to see the totals that we make.
So what about Feld prize money? Like what's that for you guys? So like what can you walk away with on a night, like a good night of racing? Just from Feld and contingency.
They changed that a little bit this year, right? The super motocross thing, they were talking about how they're increasing all the pay and everything. I was actually pretty excited to see the pay differences. So they did like almost double what you make for in the 250 class. Like that's why I primarily changed to the 450 class, is because I had 3 top 10s in 1 year. I had a 7th place in the 250 main event. I made $950 total from Feld. That was like 2 years ago or whatever. I was like, dude, like I could make last place in the LCQ in the 450 class and get paid $1,200.
Yeah.
Like back then. That's why I was like, dude, like that and getting 7th, couple top 10s. Nobody gave two shits about that, to be really honest. So I was like, okay, like that was the year that I did the hybrid year, and I made my second ever 450 race. I made the main event, and that was like I knocked everybody's shoes off. Like it was such a big deal. I'm like, dude, there's so much more notoriety and like in the 450 class. So I was like, that's where my home is, kind of deal. You know what I mean? I'm good at starts, good at being consistent. I don't have the funding to build a PC 250. I'd love to ride one. You know, if they need a fill in, give your boy a call.
Yeah.
But I can't compete with that on top of rebuilding my bike, because then I'm having to have a mechanic or the funding and whatnot to do that. Like, dude, I'll go buy a stock KTM 450 from Letco Cycles right off the showroom floor, slap a couple parts on it, and boom, go be competitive. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't know, it's tough.
What did you make, or like what can you make?
That's where we're going. My goodness.
That's all good.
So, dude, I go on so much tangent. Sorry. So, $400 from KTM.
Yeah.
That's what I was gonna. My goodness, Kevin, you're getting off topic. So, 250 they doubled, right? 450 went up like $100 to $200 per spot. That's about it.
Yeah. Okay.
So last year I think you were able to make, I think you got $2,000 for getting last in the main event. This year you get $2,200 for last in the main event. So, and it goes up $50 per spot. So if you get, I'm pretty sure, like if you look at the payout breakdown, it's kind of funny, dude. Like people getting top 10s are maybe getting $3,000 kind of deal. Like for me, an average weekend, let's just say $2,500. It's 16th place or so. Plus your KTM contingency, that's $2,900, right? 25, and then 29. So that, then you got your entry fee, so deduct $225. You got your flights, it's probably $500. Deduct that. You got your hotels, it's probably another $500. You're looking at that $1,500 range. Oh, you got food, everything like that, definitely in that $1,500 range. Got all your parts, say you bend something, or I mean, a lot of us at least at this level get majority of parts for free, but race fuel I'm still paying for. A lot of other variables, you know what I mean? Like, boom, you're maybe making $1,000 a weekend if you don't have sponsorship or creative ways to get what you're getting done, and that's being a 450 main event dude.
Yeah. So that's, I think people wonder why there's so many Cowie 450s, like in the LCQ especially, is so they're obviously paying like quite a bit more when it comes to the contingency side of things.
Correct, yeah.
And I think Yamaha pays pretty good contingency too, right?
I honestly have no idea about that. Like, that's even one thing that I've tried exploring because I know a lot of amateurs. Like, I remember amateur kids on these Cowies and some of the KTMs all get double, triple contingency. I tried hitting up KTM and be like, I'm like one of the 4 dudes on a KTM in the main events. Like, can I get some help with like a double contingency or something like that? I never got a response. So
yeah.
It's a struggle, dude.
Privateer life, baby.
Yeah, dude.
Well, I think
you got to ask.
That's one good thing with the World Supercross stuff is that like there's no, I guess it's like good and bad. Like there's no privateers, but basically everyone that's on the line is like getting some form of start money, you know?
Where at?
At World Supercross. So like,
oh yeah,
it's,
exactly.
It's like it's just a different model in a sense. But yeah, like I think Phil Nicoletti was breaking down what he was making, but I think he was getting like $5,000 a race to show up and race, and then all like the bonuses and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, it's a hard sort of spot because, like I said before, I think one of the coolest parts about Supercross is that just like anyone can rock up and do it, you know, like that in itself, I think it's like you wouldn't really want that to go away. But then I guess it's like the argument is like how much should get split down the line, because, you know, if you don't have privateers rocking up, you've got 10 factory dudes. So it's like, do you want to do, I guess the argument then becomes for like the case for the privateers is like, all right, well, does Supercross look this cool with only 10 dudes? You know, like, and it's like this,
especially the way, well, that's tough because, sorry to cut you off,
no.
but like this year, like you're kind of saying with Coop, like, because I listened to the Coop podcast, like there are so many dudes inside that top 10 that could win. Like, it is exciting, but at the same time, 90% of the time, you're going to have like Sexton, Tomac, Coop up front.
yeah.
You'll have Roxon and Barsha up there a little bit. Other than that, you know, you got like, I mean, AP can be kind of up in there too. But a majority of those guys, you got the top 3, and then you got a majority of those kind of behind, and then they kind of just fall into their slot, and then they race themselves to an extent. I feel like, obviously, I haven't watched a whole lot of 450 main events, so I could be completely wrong. But yeah, some of the excitement does come from back in the pack.
Yeah, and I think that you just like you need that 20 guys on the gate looking competitive for the sport, like the optics of the sport. Like the TV stuff, it sort of doesn't matter because you just pick the battles that you want to watch. Like you can only watch, like they do a split screen, you know, it's like 2 dudes up in the top, 2 dudes down in the bottom. So it's like you've got 4 dudes kind of getting TV time, but it's like for the people in the stands, like the fan experience, like that's what Feld is selling essentially, is like they're trying to, well, there's 2 products, I guess. There's like the video, the TV package, but then there's like the live show. And I think it's like the live show, you need to have like 20 dudes on that track that are like all battling, and that's kind of like the beauty of the sport, you know? So it's like, because I guess I can see the argument of, it's like, well, why pay the dude that gets last in a sense? But then it's kind of not, I guess I'm trying to make the anti-point for that is like, all right, so if it's only dudes that get paid from the factories and like get supported from the race teams, then yeah, you've got 10 dudes that are at the track. And it's like, do we want Supercross with 10 dudes, or do we want to have a full gate with like really good talent that's going to provide great racing over the entire, you know, the entire track? And then you've got the heat races, so you know you need 40 dudes on the track that are getting there every single weekend. So I think that it's just like, it's an investment that there almost should be like more of an investment at that level to try and like raise the overall level of the sport, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and that's even one thing, because I'm pretty sure if you look at the breakdown right now, like, I mean, I plead it for the big guys too, like the guys that have factory teams that are on the podium. Now, that's the thing, that they obviously have contracts, better sponsors, or like a team behind them that is obviously invested and gets the marking out of it too. So then in return gives them value for their bonuses. But like, imagine if those guys didn't have bonuses, right? You have Coop. Coop end up third this weekend? Yeah. So
No, I think
Coop,
Barsha.
Or no, Barsha. So, okay, well, let's use Coop or Barsha as an example. They're walking away with $4,500
Yeah.
for a podium in the 450 class.
Yeah.
That's insane, I think. Like, I don't have anything bad to say about Feld. Obviously, I love racing. I love
feel
what I
the
do and
same,
whatnot.
yeah.
But like, that's for the competition and the amount of champions that are in our class and the amount of competition that is just in there, to only walk away for $4,500 for a podium is insane. But that's obviously why the teams and everything, that's why they have bonuses and stuff. But that's not something that I have privilege to an extent.
Yeah.
We got to get the results first and then it'll come though.
But yeah, and I think like I'm the same. Like I don't have anything against Feld. Like it's my whole shit runs off talking about Supercross. You know, like I'm
exactly.
I'm as grateful as anyone. But I think just what it does is it just creates like a weird economy where the teams, it's sort of all on the teams to then be the ones that like really foot the bill for like the riders. It just creates like I guess across the board, it creates like this whole different dynamic, you know? Like, I think it creates a different dynamic in the sport in terms of like the way that riders can act and the way that riders can talk. Like we don't have the personalities in the sport in the way that you have with like NBA or like, I guess football's maybe like a little bit different. Like, but even then, like, there's no like Antonio Browns, there's no like Kevin Durant's, there's no, because the riders are so bound in by the like the teams that they race for. There's like a certain dress code, there's a certain like our sport. I think one of the things that is created by the model of, you know, the teams basically footing the bill is that there's such a formula of what a Supercross racer is. And it's like, there's only a certain, it's maybe like we've maxed out the appeal in a sense, or like we've found the fans that we're going to find because it's like white, like middle class, straight edge, you know, clean cut. You're not allowed to sweat. Like there's a really clearly defined box of like what a Supercross racer is. And I think that that's because they've got the corporate companies like KTM and Honda and Kawasaki and Yamaha that they're basically like, we're a sport that's full of corporate employees. And I think that when you look at other sports like the UFC, that's not like that. The NBA, the NFL, boxing, like that, all these huge sports, you can't really say that there's like the stars of that sport are like essentially just corporate employees.
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing when it comes to the riders that I see within our industry, within my class, right? So I think KTM does a pretty good job, at least with AP. Like, he's probably, like, they have to keep him kind of corporate and keep him, you know, in certain things, but like he's, I think, one of the best personalities in the sport kind of deal. And that obviously is shown, especially like his whole almost win thing. Like that interview after that, like that touched me.
Yeah.
Like how he was so emotional, and then it was cool to watch, like how he composed himself in the middle, and, you know, we'll put the work boots back on. It's kind of like how the AC thing went when he wrecked for the championship or whatever. Like the way that those guys are able to collect themselves but still have a personality.
Yeah.
There's not really a whole lot of that within our sport. And that's one thing I kind of like within my program.
Yeah,
like Carnell obviously has his whole deal going on, but like we're able to have our own personalities without too much influence, if that makes sense. Which obviously I'm not doing anything too crazy and whatnot, but like, you know, certain things that like other racers have done, corporate companies and corporate people probably wouldn't be super stoked about. So, but it's nice to have the full freedom.
Yeah, well, I think, you know, you've only got to look at like the popularity of Stank Dog and Logan. Like Logan's getting a lot of popularity now in what he's doing, the whole OnlyFans thing. Like it's fucking genius, dude. And like you think about like Buttery's one of the most famous dudes in the sport. Like that's legit.
Yeah.
You know, like
yeah, 100%.
And like
just having a good time.
He's like a kind of like a rock star dude, you know, and you think about the way that like freestyle, and I'm not saying that everyone needs to be like wild, and like that's not the deal, you know, like that's not the personality that like Chase doesn't have that personality. Like, you know, there's guys that's just not what they're like. But I mean, you just look at a guy like you look at a sport like freestyle. Like freestyle just exploded because of Travis Pastrana being Travis Pastrana and Brian Deegan being Brian Deegan and Jeremy Stenberg, and that whole world exploded because of the personalities. And like Travis was just not allowed to be that guy in Supercross. You know, like he left Supercross. Like how crazy is that to think that one of the biggest action sports stars of all time was a Supercross rider and just like dipped on the sport and got to just go and be this whole superstar, like completely over there. Like there was obviously something that drew him to those other sports that he couldn't do in this box over here.
That's one of the guys that I think it'd be coolest to meet. I've never met Travis, but like some of the stuff that what he did and made it work, and also with Brian Deegan and everything like that. Like, and sometimes you just can't really conform, and if you want to follow your heart, kind of deal, like that's just where that kind of stuff leads, and it's inspiring to see. It's cool to see, and yeah, I don't really know. Besides just. It's different. Sometimes it pays to be different. Yeah.
Oh man, 100%. Like we put up a clip the other day of me. Like a bunch of people took it out of context too. Like I was basically saying that like J-Law essentially got like pushed out of the sport. You know, like between all the fines that he got, the sponsors dropping him, like that whole kind of deal. I was kind of comparing him to like a Floyd Mayweather or a Mike Tyson, where it's like fucking Mike Tyson went to jail for rape. Like that's gnarly, dude, you know, like, and he was still a guy that came back and was like he's a hero now, you know? So it's like there's these story arcs, like those people were allowed to just like develop and have like redemption within their sport. Or you look at like Floyd Mayweather, he was so comfortable to just play the heel and like be the bad guy for an entire sport. And he ended up making like over $1 billion out of like people paying to want to see him lose, you know? Like we've never even really, I think J-Law is probably like the only guy that we've ever had that was like, he was able to win championships. Like he beat Ryan Dungey for a championship. He was like beating guys like Villopoto and, you know, legends of the sport. Granted, there's an element of his own like self-destruction that led to him like kind of not being in the sport, but you know, like he was so pushed out. It was like, here's a guy that came in, fucked shit up, ran his own program, and it was literally like a fire extinguisher. Like everybody was like, stop, like we can't have this at all. And it's like, I don't know, I think maybe we missed the boat there on a dude that could have, because when you've got an anti-hero, that means you've got a hero. You know, like it makes a Ryan Dungey look that much better, or it's like an Evander Holyfield looks that much better because of a Mike Tyson. And that's one of the things I'm like half excited for Haiden. I feel like Haiden Deegan could be like the sport's first real heel, you know, like he could be the guy that I think, and you sort of saw it with the Jordan Smith thing. Like I loved all that, you know, like the press conference. It was dope that Hunter stuck up for him, but it's like he just kind of didn't give a fuck. And like you know that there was like Brian back at the trailer being like, dude, don't worry about it, like don't say nothing, just like laugh it off. Like he played that whole situation out so perfectly. And it's like, I don't know, maybe Deegan's like the first heel in the sport that like just goes, I don't give a fuck. Like say what you want, I don't care, you know. And then you'll have people that will love that, and you'll have people that will hate that.
You almost need the I don't want to say polar opposites, but you need some of the drama, right? Like there's like the whole Pike and it was Freezy,
yeah,
and that whole situation, dude, like Feld and whatever, they obviously probably were not super stoked on it, even though they used it for all their marketing. But like that kind of stuff blows up. Yeah, that stuff blows up. And that's like even like they don't want you to fight, but at the same time, that's the excitement, right? So when it comes to, yeah, Deegan's been killing it and everything like that. And a little bit of attitude can go two ways, you know what I mean? And that's where it becomes, like you said, like you have the hero, the anti-hero, the fans, the people that hate on you, the haters kind of deal that just fuels the fire to an extent because it creates excitement. Unfortunately, you have people that wish you don't do good, but then you have people that are behind you, want you to do good kind of deal. Like it's wild to see, but like, do you think that we need more people like that in the sport, or do you think that would tarnish things?
No, but I think everyone's scared of like what it would do for the sport, but I think that the anti-hero makes the hero, and you can see that in every single sport, you know, like it just takes a person to be comfortable with it and to know that role and to know that position. Like, dude, it's Brian Deegan, Travis Pastrana. That's what that was. Like, you had the clean cut American kid, and then you had the punk metal, you know, like satanic, you know, like the fuck it. It's like, and that wasn't Brian. Like, he's the nicest dude in the world. Like, he's such a nice guy. And it's like, but he had that image, and I'm sure he like lived it to an extent, as much as like any 20-year-old famous dude that's on ESPN. Like, I'm sure that there was an element of him living it, but it's like he understood that people wanted to see that, you know. And yeah, I think that there's one thing that, and this isn't a negative thing, but as far as Feld as like the business goes, like it's literally Disney on ice, you know. So that's like an old school family. I'm sure it's like a very conservative Christian family that is the one that like owns the sport. But there is a limitation of what kind of show can be produced by that type of business, you know. Like, if you look at the UFC, you got a president that was like, when COVID came along, he was like, I'm not stopping the show. I don't give a fuck what you say. I don't give a fuck what bad media we get. We're going to go to Dubai. We're going to fight on an island. Like, and then you get a guy like Conor McGregor come along that's doing crazy shit. Like, fighting's obviously like you're dealing with a different group of people. Like, you're actually dealing with crazy people that like get in and fight each other. But it's like the model kind of works, you know. And you get these dudes like a Chael Sonnen, right? I don't know if you follow UFC much, but there's like
a little bit. There's
a guy, Chael Sonnen. Like, he was just the heel of the sport. Like, he talked so much shit. He went after like the nicest dudes in the sport, and you know, he was like essentially an asshole. He was an asshole to fans, an asshole to media, but he made so much money out of the fights, and the fights that he was in was huge because he was going against like the nice guys. And I think it's that juxtaposition of hero and anti-hero. And yeah, I think Coop's probably the closest thing. Like, I think that Cooper's probably the closest guy that we've had to just like kind of, because I guess everyone wants to be loved, right? And it's like, you can try and there's a thing that you can, well, the way to be loved by everyone is to try and like please everybody, you know. And I think that Coop's maybe one of the guys that he doesn't really care to be loved by everybody. So he's not really like, it's all like a business decision for him. So yeah, I think that the sport would do better with guys that were a little bit more comfortable playing like a certain character, stepping outside that box a little bit, and I don't know, maybe like playing to that entertainment factor a little bit more than we do, you know. But it's like what Chase said, it's like, do we want to be a sport or a show? So it's like, I guess that's up to the athlete to decide.
Oh, that's tough. That's a tough question. I feel like you need a little bit of both. Like, I mean, look at how many people. Look at how many people probably enjoy watching. Like, I just use AP because he's an easy example. But like, how many people probably watch motocross just because they love that dude? You know what I mean? Like the personality behind it, the bickering, you know, the rivalries that these guys have. Like, that's what creates fan engagement, creates conversation, creates engagement and all. To be honest, so. But like, just something I was just kind of thinking about. Like, what do you think it was like in the rig after the Deegan Jordan? Like, I would love to be a fly on the wall when that happened. Like, what do you think went down?
I honestly,
or do you have any insight?
Nah, I wish I knew. I spoke to Brian after it because like my personal take, like, I don't think that there was anything wrong with, like, I think Jordan made some big mistakes in that altercation, I guess you could call it. Like, because you know, right, so like that whoops, you race that track, that whoop section, when you've got a flat 90-degree right hand turn after a whoop section and you're on the right hand side of that, if you get like one little, like an extra kick off that last whoop or that second last whoop with your rear tire, the difference of like where you can actually stop your bike by like the tiniest difference in kick is probably like 5 meters, just because you've only got a front tire, it's turning right, your rear wheel's not on the ground. Like, there's only a certain level that you can squeeze that front brake without tucking the front. So it's like, for me to, I guess that whole incident is based on like, did Haiden actually run him high? And it's like, after a whoop section like that on that particular turn, I just don't even know that you could make the case that Deegan would have actually had intention to run him high. Like, am I right in saying like how hard it is to get stopped for a turn like that after that kind of section?
100%. And I don't think there was anything wrong with the initial pass. I didn't even know like that's kind of where it started. For me, I thought it kind of started in the next corner because, yeah, like he had the position. Obviously, he knew Jordan was trying to come around the outside. But if he had the inside lane, whether he had Jordan there or not, everybody watched the races. Everybody went through the whoops and banked off the outside of that corner.
Because that's all that was there.
Yeah, like that move, that was just racing. He's trying to stay in the lead. Jordan came around. It is what it is kind of deal. But yeah, then it came to the next corner where like he went high, the Deegan like trying to play the little bit of the games and whatnot. And I don't know. I don't want to say too much on it because I don't have a problem with either of them. But obviously it wasn't good between teammates, especially because homie was in championship contention to an extent. But
that's where I think that
I'm sure Jordan.
Sorry, you finish. Actually, no, you finish.
I said I'm sure that Jordan, he had every right to be pissed about the situation because there's a little bit too much, but on both ends. But at the same time, I think Jordan was probably kicking himself in the butt because he was faster than him. He could have passed him in the whoops the next lap kind of deal, just got a little bit closer. I think he got a little bit irritated with the situation, tried forcing the issue in not probably the best corner instead of like trying to set him up in a 180 to cut him off. So I think he just got excited, and that's just shit happened kind of deal.
Well, I think that it come down to, and this is just me fully guessing the situation, but it come down to this whole. I think that Jordan, that it seemed like he just took offense to getting run high after the whoops. And then Haiden, basically, from how it looked to me, is like he goes to the inside in that next turn, and it's almost like he's just waiting for Jordan to sort of like make the pass, you know, or like just to keep going around the inside. And then he cuts down early off that, almost like into Haiden, and then it seemed like it shouldn't have gone on past that second turn, and then they like he like turns into, well, actually after the whoops, that's when Jordan comes across like kind of into him, like he fades to the inside of the track, and then so that's why I think you saw Haiden like stay to the inside. So then he fades to the inside, goes up in the berm, and then cuts down. It was like that turn for me, I'm like, that's where shit got weird. I'm like, what are you even doing? Like, why can't come into him after and then go to the outside? So, but I guess the ultimate takeaway is like, no matter what the situation is like you had a chance to just like fully take the high road and like be the experienced guy in that truck. And then after the race, you go like, dude, what are you doing? We're in a heat. Like, let Haiden win the heat race. get the second gate pick for the main, and then go back to the truck and be like, hey, dude, like, what are we doing? That's a heat race. Like, I get it afterwards, but like, we don't need to do that shit. But instead of taking the high road and being the experienced guy and then like dealing with it after the situation, everything got left on the track. And then I just think that you gave Haiden, like, I don't know, it was just such like a big dick energy moment that will probably stick with him for the rest of his career. You know, like, that's probably like, it almost felt like a bit of a changing of the guard in a sense of like Haiden. I don't know, like it seemed like a level up moment for him and like a level down moment for Jordan, even in like their own personal pecking order, where I feel like if Jordan just lets him win that heat and then walks off and like little bros him kind of thing at the end of the race, and like, what are you doing there, little brother? Like, that's, you know, that's kind of silly. And I look back to the conversation that I had with Colt and Jet, where like Jet was getting into Colt at one of the races when Colt won the championship, and instead of Colt like getting involved in that, he just let him do his thing. And then after the race, he sat down next to him, put his arm around him. There's like the famous photo of those two talking. It was like they'd never even spoken to that point. And then he won Jet over so much that Jet stayed out of his way for the rest of that championship, and Colt went on to win the title, you know? So like, I just think that was like such a crazy lost opportunity for Jordan to like be the old head and like almost young buck Haiden, but it just fully flipped, and I just don't think you'll ever see Haiden concede to him now, you know? But to the point is like, there was a fucking 30-minute Racer X video of guys talking about like breaking down that whole situation. It was everywhere. Everyone comment, hey, job done. Like, that is brilliant from Hayden's perspective, and the eyeballs that got and the attention that got and the opinion. And it might be 50-50 of people that thought he was shit or thought he was awesome. In that it created a bunch of it literally moved the needle of the sport, and that's a win.
Yeah, and that, because I've even had a little bit different thoughts about it since it happened. So I think time has a big difference too. Like,
that's
sure,
true.
as soon as they came off, he was hot-headed. Like, I'm sure that just happened because, like, when I saw it, I thought, looking back on it now, like I just said, I think like obviously Jordan probably could have handled it in a little bit better situation. Obviously, you're racing, like Hunter said, we're making, you know, millisecond decisions. So like, I'm sure that he's mature enough to be like, nah, I probably should have done that differently, but he didn't, because when I first initially watched it, I was like, Hayden, what are you doing there? You know what I mean? Like, afterwards, I mean, he could have probably been a little bit more respectful in the interview. I'm sure Jordan definitely didn't like that, but at the same time, like you said, it's kind of that big dick energy kind of deal. But it kind of changed for me. The first hit after the whoops came in right after that corner, but that was just the way the track went. Kind of changed for me when, like, instead of just like racing the corner, Deegan like paused to look to then try to play that game. Like, it gave me the same thought process that like my brother and I do. Like, we had a little turn track and a little pit bike track back in the and we would literally play the cutoff game, like where you would expect, or at least kind of expect, to be cut off every corner. Like, that's honestly where I got kind of my like racecraft and my cut down and my arena crossy kind of vibe. It's because Colton and I, like, we would just mess around as brothers, just going around playing a cutoff game, and like you would look back and you'd size it up, stomp on the brakes, cut down, like stuff like that. And like that kind of gave me a little bit of those vibes. So I was like, is he just like trying to like make sure that he hits him kind of deal? Like, that's when it was like threw me off. Then obviously hit him in the next corner. I was like, whoa, this is not going to go good. And then it all just went south. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think each of them, I mean, what's done is done. Yeah. That's the biggest thing that I even say, even the situations that I've been in. Obviously, a little bit of the drama that we had this past weekend, yada, yada, yada. You know, what has happened. We do make decisions and very, very, very quickly. And yes, we may not agree with some of our decisions, but they've already happened.
Yeah. So talk us through what went on for you this weekend then.
Oh, boy. Alrighty. So we'll explain a little bit of a situation. So I'll start off by saying, yes, I know I'm not those guys' speed, right? Not yet. I'll be man enough to say that. I think everybody else understands that. However, goal is to get there. You're not going to get there unless you're trying to get there to an extent. Obviously, with the Tank Masters bonuses in place, I had 2 terrible starts. At the first one, I got a really good jump, but wheelied immediately, clutched, game over. Second one, first time I've done this in years, I shifted neutral as soon as I went out of the gate, so I was dead last. So the third one, finally got the jump that I needed. I didn't have anybody to my left. Then I had AP. So it was an empty gate AP. And I knew that, obviously, with what I've done in the past, I literally just proved it last weekend, like I'm capable of getting a whole shot even not having the best gate. So there's a few variables here. And the biggest one is, as soon as I took off, my focus went to AP because AP has the inside on me. You can even watch the video. We take off, pretty even jump. I'm focusing on him, and I know that obviously I'm not really paying attention to what I got on beside me because I don't have like anybody a bike length ahead of me. I got some people close. So I was fully focused on out driving AP because I've come into corners super fast. I can track the first corner really well. So I knew as long as I could get the jump, even jump, he started outpowering a little bit, but I had a little bit better angle because he was even farther inside than me. So if I held it on just a little bit longer than him, as soon as he shut off, I was going to go a little bit longer and then shut off, so I had the position on him. So then that puts me on the inside. That gives me the power, like I said, from the Seattle hole shot. Like if you're on the inside, you have a little bit more of the power. However, as soon as I looked up after AP shut down, I'm like, oh shit, I'm coming in Mach 10. And for instance, I kind of only see Sexton because you got to imagine, like, just like Hunter said, like we're making decisions in point whatever seconds, and that was a 1v1. Tack on 20 more variables in one corner and probably twice the speed than we're ever going on a real super, like the regular racing. Dude, I didn't have a whole lot of time to make decisions. So then I saw Sexton coming down, and then all of a sudden Tomac comes from the outside that I didn't see originally, and I was already obviously cooking. So I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to be that guy. Like, I'm about to destroy all these guys. Like, I wasn't expecting that because my focus was on AP. I outdrove AP, objective complete. Look up a little bit more because my focus was on the inside. I knew it wasn't going to go good. So as you can see in the video, yeah, I was kind of even with Sexton. Obviously, he was a touch in front of me, but again, I had the inside position. But they cut down hard. I wasn't expecting them to cut down that hard. I was expecting them to go wide in the corner, to be honest, like to drive in harder. But they checked up. They had a pretty good jump and drive, obviously, so they cut down. Sexton, I kind of like, we're pretty even. But then, yeah, I saw Tomac cut across even harder, and he had the position on me. Like, there's no way I had the inside. I couldn't push him out, so... But I didn't want to T-bone him. I didn't want to take any of these dudes out. Like, I'm not here to try to destroy a championship, but I'm here to send it as well. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm here to be in the game. I'm not just going to concede because they're factory dudes. Like, that's what I've been told my whole career. I did that a lot the last 2 years and got yelled again and again and again by team and people and family and whatnot. Like, dude, like, if you want to be one of those guys, you have to believe that you're one of those guys. And, yeah, not the speed on the track yet, but sure as shit off the start is game on kind of deal.
Yeah.
So, a little bit of a mistake. I'll be the one to say a little bit of a mistake. So I tried to grab the brake, but Sexton pushed me in so tight that went into the tough blocks, and they had the tough blocks built up on like dirt. So then I hit that loose dirt and had no brakes, more or less. Like, there's no braking power because it was just silty. Like, there's no traction. So I just tried knifing as much as I could because I didn't want to obviously just run right into him. And then, yeah, just knifed. It gave me a little good twirl, and like, as soon as I went the opposite way, I was lost. Like, it happened so fast. I was like floating in air, and I was like, I'm going to get drilled. Like, I was just waiting to get just demolished by the whole crowd. And boom, smat it on the ground. Nobody was around me. Nobody else went down. I'm like, thank goodness, Kevin, you're not the most hated man in Supercross right now, because that wouldn't have been good. I'll be the first one to say a little too much, but at the same time, it was a mistake. But at the same time, I was going for it. I had my focus on the inside. I completed that objective. They just came in and pinched down harder than I was expecting, straight up. So, racing incident, not intentional. There's a lot of people, shouting, the keyboard warriors and whatnot. It was actually kind of funny because like 70% of them kind of had my back on the situation, which was funny. Like, dude, Privateer Life, he's going for the Tank Masters. Everybody knows Tank Masters because of that whole shot bonus. So, like, dude, we're here to play the game. I'm not going to get any better by, conceding to these guys. So we're here to push it. We're here to keep getting better, to keep trying to prove ourselves to, hopefully get an opportunity. At the same time, I don't want to do it at the extent of taking away a championship from anybody. Obviously, I'm smarter than that, but it's a racing incident.
Yeah, it's such a fine balance that you've got to walk too, because it's like you've proved to yourself that you can get really good starts and you can whole shot, and that's what it takes to then get the eyeballs. That's what it takes to get the experience, and there's a process that you've got to go through. But then at the same time, like, you've just got to be so careful of the guys that like they're in this championship fight, and it's like there's one way to never get on a team, and that's to cost a dude a championship.
Indeed, but at the same time, like, if things would have went worse, say somebody went down, like, dude, what happened. I couldn't change it. I can't change it even now. Like, that's the whole adapt and overcome situation. Like, yeah, dude, I would be hated thoroughly by a lot of people, but I'm a racer. I'm not there to just watch those guys. Yes, I'm not in a championship battle, but I'm in a championship points battle with all the other dudes that are from 15 to 20 right now. We're trying to battle to be in that top 20 in points. There's a bonus behind that. Also, advanceability to go, or to be able to advance into the super motocross rounds. Like, and obviously the opportunity, what I have sponsors paying me for is exposure, my results. I have personal goals. Like, yeah, I'm there to do the same thing that they're there to do. Obviously not going to win yet, but like, I have goals that I'm trying to achieve. That includes getting starts, getting up front, getting more experience. So then when I am presented an opportunity and say I'm even on a better equipment and can get starts even easier, dude, I don't want to be sitting there without any experience and just being scared. Like, I'm there to play the game.
Yeah, no, 100%. So what are your goals going forwards then, like, to close out the rest of this Supercross season?
So it's getting pretty tight right now. Obviously the goal, I'd love to race the PulpMX LCQ Challenge, obviously being one of the better known, like, privateer hustlers.
What is that deal?
Oh, so you don't know? So that's what I was talking about, how I paid for my track last year. So PulpMX or whatever, they do a bike raffle all year long. So it's like, I don't know what it is, $10 to $30 for a ticket or whatever. He bundles that all up throughout the whole entire Supercross season, getting people to join in and do that. Then he takes all the proceeds and puts it up for an LCQ race. That's sick. So an LCQ race is for all the privateers. And the way that works, at least last year, is it's top 17 in points based off of LCQs. Max points is 5th in the LCQ. So it's everybody who barely misses the main events. Yeah. So that's why I was in it last year, is because I was in a lot of I was on all the LCQs besides 2. And, I made 9 main events, but all the other main events, I was 5th or 6th or 7th. Like, I was right there the whole time. This year, obviously, is a little bit different. I'm actually in the mains the majority of the time. I've only missed 2 so far. And so, yeah, I don't have enough points to get in it. But long story short, he bundles all that money, and that becomes the purse for those 17 riders that get in via points. And then he takes 5 wild cards. So, like, 5 people that he wants to see race, or that, have something to do with it. So maybe I can get myself a wild card invite, but hopefully goal is to make the rest of the main events and finish top 20 in points. Yeah, it would be nice to get. I want to really get another top 15. A couple top 15s would be nice to solidify that. Obviously, I got 14th early in the season, but yeah, man, it's just points, consistency, top 20 in championship. So then I get that bonus, because there's a $10,000 bonus just for 20th in the championship kind of deal, and it goes $1,000 up every won that, or every position after that. So like 21st, you ain't getting nothing. 20th, you're getting 10 grand. Like, that's a big difference, at least for a privateer. It's a 1/6 of a van kind of deal. You know what I mean? That's where my head is right now, is how much do I need to get me a new van kind of deal. So I don't know. That's kind of the goals. And then obviously just trying to put myself in similar positions to Seattle, where I can get out front, or at least get up front early, and just continue to try to run that pace for longer. Obviously, I'm not going to probably finish there yet, but the longer I can keep putting myself in those positions and running there longer and longer and longer, getting there more comfortable, when I get that opportunity, I'm going to be in a lot better headspace, mental space, and prepared for it.
Yeah. How much did you win last year with the pulp thing?
So it was like it was right around 20 grand.
That's so good.
So I got second in it, because so some of his wild cards were like Chiz and Ryan Brees, and those are 2 really solid dudes. So I jumped out first. So there was a whole shot bonus, $1,000 whole shot bonus. your boy got that. So I was stoked about that. Christian Craig put up $1,000 to first to the finish line. So I got that too. Led, probably until the last 3 laps. So I led the whole thing. Like I saw whatever the champion, to win is like 25 grand on the pit board. I'm like, what? See, that was kind of wild. But Chiz, which was on a factory team earlier in the season, so that kind of bit me out of shape. Obviously love the dude now, race him all the time. But he caught me, passed me in the whoops, and then Ryan Brees passed me in the whoops with 2 laps to go. Coming up to the checkered flag, Ryan Brees, because it was whoops, left 90, finish line. He skipped the second to last whoop on the last lap with the corner right there and got off balance, and I snuck inside of him for a second. So that was sick. So yeah, I ended up getting just under 20 and literally took that entire check and then did track build part 1, which you can watch on YouTube. And then later that year, hired Dirtworks to come out, rented all the equipment, and got a Supercross track built at my house, and it cost every bit of that 20 plus a little bit more.
That's so sick. That's really cool. I mean, yeah. I knew that he did that race, but yeah, that's pretty cool that it's worth that much cash. That's pretty fucking rad.
Yeah. Yeah, it was definitely the most I've ever made from one race, so I was stoked with it. And then that's why I was like, dude, like, give me that wild card, you know? I'm trying to pay for a van this year, so so we'll see what we can work out.
Nah, that's awesome, man. No, I think it's I think it's just cool, dude. Like, I think it's cool to be in the position that you're in, you know, like, and I think this whole chat has just shown like a pretty cool spirit on your end, both in like business and then on the track. And yeah, I think that regardless what happens in the future with getting a ride and whatever, like, you're doing a really legitimate business degree right now, and you're doing a business degree, you're doing a sports science degree, you're doing a PT degree. So it's like there's so much like learning and investing in yourself that you're doing right now. And I think that, you know, it's something that I feel like I always preach on here, as much as I don't really think I know that much shit. Like, I definitely try and encourage people to really invest in themselves and to really, you know, better themselves every day. And there's a level of fulfillment in that sort of makes it so you don't even have to worry about the end result, you know. And I think that you're a dude that's really walking that walk, and it's super cool to see, bro.
Thank you. No, I really appreciate it. I love that saying. I'm going to butcher it because I didn't think about it just till now. But it's that somebody that enjoys the journey is going to go a lot farther than somebody that is looking for the destination kind of deal, or enjoys the destination. Yep. So like, just enjoying the journey is probably the biggest thing I can tell, you know, kids coming up and whatnot, is, you know, trying to follow your heart, not just focusing on that factory ride, that paycheck and everything like that. Like, if it's something that you really enjoy doing, do it for the fun of it. And if the results and the blingy stuff come with it, cool. But if that's your main focus, then it's going to get tough quick.
Yeah, man. And there's definitely, like, yeah, you're so young too, you know. Like, I think about just where you'll be in 5 years, regardless of, like, it doesn't matter what, even if your results don't get any better, which, like, they will, like, they can't not get better over that period of time. But, like, just think about if you do this same level of grind into your program and into giving sponsors back and into the Patreon, and like 5 more years of that and still getting top 15 in 450 Supercross, like, it's going to be dialed, dude, you know, like, year on year on year, you build and build and build. And it was like, you know, what you said about the track and the shop and the toolbox, like, every year you just get a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. And it's like, even if the results don't get that much better, even if the teams don't come knocking, like, dude, in 5 years time, you'll be really set up, and there'll be a crazy level of skill and knowledge that you've acquired for whatever that you decide to do in the future.
Yeah, that's what's exciting, is knowing that, you know, I don't really have to stress about what I'm going to do in the future, because I do have opportunities and I do have different things kind of that I want to get into. Like, obviously, like right now, the next kind of step for me on top of the van and the, you know, the other stuff that I want to use later in life is, like Chris, which is the guy that takes me up to the line, is pretty much funded through real estate. So like, his real estate deals and whatnot pays for his lifestyle, which I think is super sick. So like that's what I want to get into eventually, is starting to get rental houses and flipping houses, because through COVID, when we were just locked in our houses pretty much, we went in and did 2 massive projects at the house. Like we built a 50 by 20 deck. We built the whole shop, pole barn, gravel, concrete, the whole works kind of deal. Like, and I just did that with my dad and my brother kind of deal. Like I really just like doing projects and flipping stuff, and like kind of like, for an instance, like that would be me working for myself as well. Like that, long term is kind of where the head's at. But for now, man, we're having fun. We're racing. We're getting better. We're starting to open some eyes finally. We want to do it under the right circumstances, obviously. But yeah, just having fun, man. That's the biggest thing. Having fun.
Yeah, and I think it's just a really cool message that you're sending to the next generation, or like guys that might be coming out of amateurs right now, that, there's just so few spots on a factory team, and it's like you're kind of creating, you and some other guys are creating like a really legitimate roadmap where it's like you can be self-funded, you can really enjoy racing, you can get good results, and you don't have to waste all the years of amateur riding just because you didn't get the factory ride that you hoped for.
And that's the biggest thing coming into pros, right? Because through the amateurs, man, going to Loretta's for the 7, 8 times that I did, and just constantly being overlooked and not getting that factory ride, like it got super, I mean, not depressing by any means, but it's just like, bro, like, does it even matter to go to Loretta's if I just continue to get nothing? You know what I mean? Obviously, it wasn't winning championships. Like, that's a way to do it, Go there, win a couple championships. It's going to change some stuff. But, yeah, having the road that I had, but, like, just the background that I had, the way I grew up, not being homeschooled, I think that's helped me, honestly, a lot. Like, you can get homeschooled in the right ways, but that's one thing I leverage with all of my sponsors, is my ability to talk in front of a camera. Yeah. Like, I love our sport to death, love all the riders, love everybody I race against. It's not so much them that I'm talking about, but a lot of people in our industry can't hold a conversation, can't talk to a sponsor correctly, can't look somebody in their eyes and shake their hand and just be real with somebody, because they don't have the experience to an extent. I don't want to say like school gives you all those experiences, but
definitely helps.
Teamwork, it gives me more of a social feel. I can read a room, I can do, you know what I mean? So I exploit that to help me in my racing, that like, dude, I would never take the full free ride right off the rip. Like, I wouldn't be who I am today without the background that I had. So, and I wouldn't change it for anything.
No, it's super cool, man. Well, I guess let's give a final shout out to all your sponsors, all the ways that people can support the program, like just fully get the pitch going, just to make it worthwhile for everyone that you're on here.
Yeah, absolutely. So the biggest thing for me, dang, I just totally deleted everything that I needed to go. But anyway, I'll just go from the heart, right? So the biggest thing is getting involved with the program. That would be the coolest thing, obviously. Moranz.80 on Instagram. Go show some love. The YouTube is obviously, we do vlogs from every week. There's some exciting ones. We've got the newest ones coming out, so just tune in on that. KevinMoranz.com for the new merch, to join the Moranz Mafia, all that kind of stuff. You can find all the information on how to get involved with my program at KevinMoranz.com. So that's merch, becoming a sponsor, joining the Moranz Mafia, helmet wraps, brand, bike branding, etc. Everything's KevinMoranz.com. That being said, I do have a lot of great partners behind me. Obviously, the whole Next Level Racing team, Tank Masters, which has been a big part of the program, title sponsor, Redline, Canvas, which is the new gear company that we're with, which is super awesome as well. Very customized gear. Everything's sublimated, so it's super sick. Gree, which is obviously the air conditioning company I talked to you guys about. Very beneficial to have them on board. So if you guys need any air conditioning, look at them, because they'll, air conditioning and heat in Kansas, like that's everything. It's super hot in the summer, super cold in the winter with no snow, so it's no fun at all. But so like they heat the shop and everything like that, so I'm able to work out, do my bike work, stuff like that. Champion Tools, Bear Materials, Letco, EBC Brakes. There's a lot of great people behind me, Insignia with the merch and everything. So, Oakley, there's so many bike graphics. I can go on and on and on, but the biggest thing is just being real, having fun, enjoying the fan interaction. I love the fan support. The fans obviously support me getting to the races. So if you join the Moranz Mafia, we have a bunch of different cool giveaways. Oakley goggles every single weekend. Signed to Cheruby's number plate every single weekend. We do other exclusive giveaways, exclusive content. So join the Moranz Mafia, get your name on the bike, and just help the program.
Oh, that's awesome, dude. Well, I appreciate you coming in and making it happen, man. And yeah, it's been really cool to hear about the journey and the process. And yeah, I definitely think that you've got some really cool years coming up ahead. And I think that, you know, beyond racing as well, like there's a ton of different stuff that you'll be able to do. So yeah, it's cool to see, man. It's cool to see a guy like you in the industry and thriving. You know, like there's a lot of people talk about how hard it is to make the privateer stuff work, when obviously it is, but you're one of the few guys that's like really making it work and having a lot of fun doing it. So oh yeah, appreciate you, bro.
No, appreciate you too. Thank you guys. Thank you for everything, for real. We'll keep it going.
We're excited to announce the launch of our new membership site, GYPSYTales.com, packed with exclusive content and perks that you won't find anywhere else. This is your chance to become a part of the Gypsy Gang. And as a special bonus, if you sign up to an annual membership, you'll be entered into the draw to win our custom-built TC125. Gypsy Gang.